All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC 315, Muhammad versus Della Maddalena, taking a look at the upcoming card this week, which is Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. And to do all of that with me, as always, the main attraction, the Ohio player, my co-host, a man who represents the United States better than Charles Radke, Chase Parton. How you doing, brother?
Dude, we are fucking here, man. I can't tell you how good of a time I had on Saturday. So to talk about it on Monday, we're ready for it.
Yeah, this was a fun one. This was an interesting one. A little bit of wonkiness, which we'll get into, of course. But yeah, this was a UFC 315 Muhammad versus Della Maddalena. We're going to be going over each and every fight from this card. If you are new to the show, we will be doing just that. And if you have anything that you want to talk about that does not pertain to the fights that we are talking about at the moment, you can throw it in the chat. Remind us a little bit later in the stream. We'll come back and address it at that time. But to get into this card, Bilal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena taking place in Montreal, Quebec, Canada at the Bell Center. What did you think of this card, sir?
Honestly, I wasn't too hopeful for the first 6 days of the week, but I think on the seventh day I was hype. I was like, man, you know what? This headline should carry it. But I think I was wrong in that assessment because the entire card was pretty solid.
I agree. The prelims were particularly good on this card, I thought. I was very impressed by some of the fights early in the night. And yeah, there was a lot of discussion going around about this card as to the quality level of it. And then, of course, the quality versus the price of tickets, which is an ongoing debate nowadays with how expensive the UFC events are and continue to be. This one apparently had a good amount of remaining seats left. I'm sure that those probably ended up filling out, but just an interesting conversation leading into this. So I do think that it exceeded expectations, at least for me.
I think also to note right off the bat is like I questioned a while back, like why couldn't London get a pay-per-view? But everybody commented and was talking about how the talent that the UK fighters have is just not for pay-per-view. Canada, on the other hand, hey, they got us a card. They got a card, and they filled the card, and they all performed. A lot of them, so that was
That is
pretty good.
very, yeah, very, very true. Absolutely. The Canadians on the card showed out in a big way. So this was a really nice showing for the country, which I was happy for because if you recall, the last Canada card was not that way. It was, I mean, I think that the women performed okay on the last Canada card, if I recall, but the men not so much. So good to see a lot of good performances from the Canadians in Canada.
Hell yeah, this one was decent.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, another we go to another arena, we go to international, and we get into these arenas where once again it just feels like a normal arena. There's a lot of places that you go that just have their own different feel, but I think this was another one that just felt like another arena. It could have been anywhere.
Yeah, this arena is significant in the sense that it is like a historic location to an extent because it is where the Montreal Canadiens play, the hockey team up there.
It's 10
Uh,
minutes from the hospital. We'll get into that here in a little bit.
yeah, oh yeah, we certainly will. We're learning new and interesting things about Montreal as the event goes on for unfortunate reasons in that case. But yeah, so there is the whole element of it being in Montreal, and we can talk a little bit, I guess, about the quality of the crowd. I think that the crowd was certainly eager to see some action, perhaps a little bit too eager at times. I think they were booing a little unnecessarily. And that might just go to the fact that while Montreal, in and of itself, is a very beautiful city, the people of Quebec are perhaps living up to stereotypes when it comes to French people to an extent, I would say.
Would you like to say that? Go ahead and elaborate a little bit.
I went to Montreal, Canada in the past and did not have a great time there, not because of the city, but because of the people that I encountered. It wasn't
Okay.
like I was going out there looking for problems in Montreal. I was there for a reason that was like really like had me very excited and very happy to be there. It was like one of the biggest like life events that had ever done up until that point. So I was like, really wanting to be amongst the community out there and like really soaking it all in, so to speak, and just around every corner, another fucking rude person. It was just rudeness. I really don't like to believe that stereotypes have validity, but you go out there and deal with it in person, and you're like, the stereotype about rude French people is legit to an extent. They went from France over to Canada. Now Canada's got it. That's what you deal with out there. And also, as a longtime hockey fan, in addition to MMA, the Montreal Canadiens are a team that are very annoying. So, for similar reasons, I guess, them and their fans. So, that's all I got to say about that. Look, I hate to be that guy. This is just the experiences that I've had in the past. How about some people from Montreal change my mind? That would be a great thing. I'm open to having my mind changed. So if you're from Montreal and are taking offense to anything that I'm saying here, be cool with me, and then I'll have a new person to say, not everybody in Montreal is that way.
This was a longer rant than I thought it was going to be. I'm glad that you gave us a lot of context to this, but the next thing I wanted to move on to is, what do you think about the commissions not allowing foot stomps for this?
That is an interesting thing. Yes. So if you're not aware, the unified rules of MMA were adopted for this event and in Montreal, with one notable exception, which I thought I had heard, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. It was just for this event that foot stomps of all things were not going to be allowed. Very strange.
Would you say it's strange, or would you say it's coincidental that the main event guy is coming off a foot injury where maybe he would only take it in the country
Oh,
that would not allow the foot stomps?
interesting. Oh, conspiracy hat on for that one, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, I guess that is a fair point, but he was throwing a lot of kicks, though. So I would think that if there was any residual stuff going on with the toe for Bilal, that it would have affected that during all of the kicking exchanges. But I mean, either which way, it was a very notably odd thing for foot stomps of all things to be the one thing that they did not allow when the new unified rules have been in place pretty much across the board. It feels like I don't think that we've encountered anywhere, at least in recent memory, that has not been using the new unified rules in their entirety.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely something interesting to note, but the Bilal thing I think was pretty funny that I put those two and two together. Like, that is weird that of all the people, it's the guy who's coming off the most gruesome foot injury, you know?
It's true.
So
They don't call you thinking cap parton for no reason. That's
exactly.
good call on
Exactly.
that. So yeah, I mean, that's was there any other preliminary stuff that we needed to go into on this one, or you want to start getting into these fights?
I'm trying to think. We'll definitely get into the promos when the time comes for them.
There were a lot of them.
Yeah, yep. I think we'll get into everything at the time. So let's go ahead and move into it.
Sure thing. As we go down, I guess the one other thing that I did have as like just an overall overarching thing for this card is that, rightly so, of course, I'm not trying to say that it's not deserved, but man, the GSP glazing was super hard. They went so
Um,
hard on that.
I also think it was funny that just Dana doesn't even care. He just doesn't even show up to the pay-per-view. He just wasn't there.
He was there.
I
He put
don't
put the
think.
belt he put the belt
Oh,
around his
you're
neck.
right. He was. That is stupid of me to think. I don't know why. They didn't seem to care that he was there for the. I didn't see him the entire event, I guess, until the belt was on him. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
he might have been out there doing other things. He wasn't cage side for all of these fights. So
Okay,
it's
that
just
would make
still,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. But I think that there's probably some validity to that anyway, because he might find things to do on certain events. You know what I
There's a
mean?
poker table somewhere in there, you know?
Yeah, or he's got Canelo Alvarez's fight on a screen somewhere watching that.
True.
That was a little narrative that was going around in the YouTube space this week. It seems like talking about the I guess the merits of streaming versus paying for pay-per-views. Like, I've seen a couple of channels covering that, and I don't know why they all sort of did at the same time. But I guess Dana had been asked in a press conference about watching such and such boxing event, and they were like, "Did you pay for it?" And he was like, "Yeah,"
Yeah,
something like
that
that.
was yeah, that definitely was a while ago, but I know what you mean. Yeah, I hear ya.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I know. I thought the same thing though, because I thought the clip was old, but then for some reason now it's just like people are talking about it. So anyway, all right, well, let's get into these actual fights here, huh? Let's enough dilly dallying. Let's
Yeah.
let's start this thing off. Brad Katona versus Bekzat Almakan. I mean, this is going to be a quick one because it was a quick one.
It's not gonna be a quick one for me. I'm gonna stop you right there
Oh,
because
please.
I told you, everybody, make sure you watch the latest short that I just put out, because if you see in the video I referenced that they know They know, somehow they know, they knew it. And what I'm referencing to, if you are unaware, is Vegas and or the smart people out there who rightfully assumed that Bexat would come out here and knock out Brad Katona. And let me tell you why this is ridiculous that somebody was able to scout this out. Because Bexat coming into this fight, only known notable thing is one overhand shot on Umar, dropped him to the mat. Okay, cool. Then he gets wrestled for the next however long, whatever it is. Then he comes into this fight as a favorite against a guy who's a veteran of the sport, two-time tough winner. So he's not just some guy who will just get beat on and quit and do whatever. Like he's got the determination to win. Never been finished. Let me say that again. He has never been finished. And some people out there had the correct assumption to say Bexat would come out here and beat Brad Katona by knockout. And I thought that they were fucking insane. And then this fight started. And I'll break it down to you really quick because it was so quick. So first interaction, Brad Katona gets fucking starched quick as hell. And it was crazy to think like I knew it was over at that moment. Brad Katona didn't get his hands up. He shook it off. It was well what is the word? Well recovered, and he was able to shake it off. Second encounter, okay, he gets caught again. Not as strong, but it was definitely two clean shots. Next encounter, he gets clipped with an uppercut. Again, wasn't the most clean shots, but you knew that he's getting hit. Fourth encounter, they step in. Bexat throws the uppercut from hell, Bolo style, knocks Brian Katona into the fifth dimension, and that was all that was wrote. And I just can't tell you how in awe I was in the moment because there's something fundamentally wrong with how I'm viewing fights if this is how this fight went down and other people knew it. Like I just can't believe I was so wrong here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I think that that's going to be a recurring note throughout some of this because of the 3 clips that I posted this past week of us talking about this card, all 3 of them were incorrect predictions. So
Dude, I can't tell you how many times like I was off. Like I just can't tell you what I knew, what I thought was going to happen is just not even close. And we'll definitely get into a lot. Some you can't even predict that. That we'll get into it, but this one right here, some way somehow somebody knew that Bexat was that good of a striker after coming off of a win against not a win, but coming off of fights against people that we don't even know who the hell they are. And then that was the case when he came in with Umar. It's like, bro, he's been fighting plumbers and technicians. Like, who is he? And then he comes in here and he does have this flawless fucking performance. I'm in awe. I really think Bexat is legit. I mean, I did at the time think like, okay, he did drop Umar. There's something there too, and he does have some power. He was able to find the shot. But did I think that was going to be able to be something that he could just do every fight? No. Like, but maybe he is.
well, I mean, I think that the real surprising element of it was just how quickly it all came together, and then that it was that shot. I mean, yes, you're right. It was a very well placed, well timed uppercut, but I mean, for it to completely crumble Brad that way was just like, I mean, if you go back, I mean, of course, you talked about the clip that you posted. Going back to the watch along that I did myself and the Vitz King on this channel. It was like I was mid-sentence talking about, some element of the fight, and then it was like, oh yeah, this is happening, blah blah blah. Oh nope, Brad's dead. Brad
Yeah.
is just dead. He's just gone. He's flatlined. He is done. And
I
it's so very strange.
I can't tell you like how and it's crazy that you had the same exact reaction. It's like there's just nothing you can even say. It's like it just it's done. I mean, it happened. Like it's not I wasn't like enraged or I wasn't like, "Oh my god." It was just like that's just the sport. Like that's
Yeah.
just what happens, you know?
Just because it was because it felt like it was supposed to be part of a much longer exchange like that. There are times where you're sitting on the edge of your seat, like, and then the knockout happens, and you're like, "Oh my god, that's mind blowing." This was just kind of like, "Oh, what?" I mean, like
Yeah.
it sort of hit you out of nowhere. So yeah, crazy that is the way that Brad gets finished for the first time. Brad goes for the no glove touch and pays for it.
That is the funniest part of it is because I'm really talking Brad up. It's like, "Oh, yeah, Brad ain't touching no fucking gloves. Come on, dude. He's rugged, you know? He don't give a shit." And then, "Oh, he got caught. That's over, guys. We lost. Oh, he got caught again. Oh, third time. Yeah, just throw in the towel. It's over." And then he gets caught and he's flatlined. It was as quick as it came. It was crazy.
Yeah, very, very crazy. And I mean, great win for Almacan here. I mean, good for him to get back into the win column after the Umar fight. But yeah, just a very strange one. Like you said, I mean, Brad, Mr. Two-time tough over here, just getting put out for the first time in his career by this is, I mean, I don't want to call him a nobody, but like, a new fighter coming out of nowhere kind of thing, essentially, except for the Umar fight with the one shot.
Yeah, listen, this is something that I definitely will remember, but, like, I just can't tell you how many times I've seen Brad Katona eat shots that he shouldn't be able to recover from, and then magically, in front of his home crowd, just crumbles. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's I think the bigger takeaway. I mean, we've seen Brad in wars before. I mean, the fight with Cody Gibson for the Ultimate Fighter finale fight was an all out war. I mean, that was ended up being fight of the night.
Yeah.
So he's gone through some crazy fights in the past. For this one to be the one that caught him is just very, very wild. But yeah, shout out to Almacan. I mean, really nice, well timed uppercut when Brad was dipping his head, had his face wide open. That's
Well,
how you're supposed to do it.
are you on the side that would say Brad maybe could have weathered the storm if the ref wouldn't have stepped in? Because 'Cause I'm not. I mean, he definitely was done in my opinion, but
No, yeah, no, I'm with you. Honestly, Brad looked like he was out. I think that if the ref hadn't have stepped in, it would have been a lot more shots. I mean, perhaps now we did see another time where the ref did not step in and the dude was able to recover. So perhaps, I mean, if he had a more lenient ref, maybe there's a chance that he would have scrambled. Maybe there's a chance that he would have been able to come to and get himself back into it. But I thought it was a fine stoppage. Like it definitely wasn't like, damn, I can't believe you stopped it like that.
yeah, he fucked him up, man. I being in awe is a lack of better terms. Like Almacan really, he it would if I was on the side of him, this would have started the card off with a fucking firework. But the fact that I was with Katona, I mean, I've seen him flip the switch and be able to just perform, and he just can do that. And the fact that he didn't tonight, it was very surprising. But the
Yeah.
fact that somebody out there knew this card, it really hurt my feelings, I think, because I come on here and I talk about fights and I watch fights every week, but I didn't know. And I don't know how somebody did. So
Yeah, no, well that's again going to be a recurring theme because I took quite the bath this week when it came to my bets. But
yeah.
yeah, again, good job for Almacan. We'll see what he ends up doing going forward as far as if he's going to be able to replicate that with other people. But because I feel like this might be a case where next fight goes into later rounds. It's a little bit more of like a gritty slugfest kind of deal, and then it's like, oh well, yeah, the Brad shot was maybe just a lucky shot is what it could happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but potentially that might be the case. So we're gonna have to see if Almacan really is just some crazy knockout artist, or if that was just a one-off kind of unique situation.
Yeah, we'll see. Definitely
Right.
see.
But good way to start it, even if it was kind of a flash knockout that sort of left us speechless.
Yep.
Well, following that line of thinking, though, this was another great way to like more properly start the card, I would say. I mean, that first, was a very quick knockout. This was like the first like fight of the card. And this was, I thought, a fantastic fight. This was Daniel Santos versus Jung Young Lee. I thought that this was fight of the night. Possibly. I mean, I thought that this was a really, really solid performance from both of these guys, especially considering that Santos is on short notice in this fight and up a weight class filling in for Gavin Tucker. I mean, you take a point away because he walked out to ACDC, but you give him a +1 point for the nickname Willie Cat. Come on. How can you not like this guy?
Wily Cat.
Wiley Cat? I thought they were saying Willie Cat.
It's Wily Cat, like Wily Coyote, I
Yeah,
think.
I mean, I get that, but all right, maybe they were just mispronouncing. I don't know. I like Willie Cat though. I think it's funny.
So going into this fight, I had thought that Mr. Lee was gonna be able to perform a lot better because against Hyder Emil getting knocked out in the first round on your feet, by the way, you didn't actually get dropped. You just stopped defending yourself, whatever they
True.
say. I thought he was gonna come back and perform a lot better, especially against a short notice opponent. At the last moment, I don't know what made me flip the script because I definitely don't believe in the shoot box guys. Not my not my favorite camp because there's only one guy that is at the high level, basically, you know, and well, Ian Gary, but whatever. So Daniel Santos, they came in calling him Mini Charles Oliveira. I don't know if you heard this.
I did. Actually,
They,
somebody in the chat was saying that too, and I was like, I mean, he doesn't have the hair anymore, but
dude, they do this about all the fucking shoot box, fucking bantam flyweight guys, whatever you want to say. It's like they will glaze the shit out of them. And I think you're talking. You rewatched this one, yes?
yes, absolutely.
And you okay? You stand by it being an absolute good
Oh, are
performance,
you
but
kidding me? Oh,
I
hell
would
yeah.
s
This was a
I would
great
say
fight.
there's nothing memorable from it. That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God. Rewatch the fight, brother.
It
If you
might have been a really good performance, but I would say there's nothing that left me taking away saying, "Well, Daniel Santos is on the radar now," kinda deal.
Oh, no. Well, okay. I mean, what I would say then to that note, if like that's the lens that you're viewing it through, is that I think that it was a great fight because both these guys were meeting each other at the level that they were at. Because they were like, this was the kind of fight where like it felt like you got an entire fight in the first round. Like, I mean, they were both throwing the kitchen sink out there from the start of this thing. Like this could have easily been a main card fight to me. Like it was unfortunate that it was on the early prelims because I thought that the level of output from both these guys, they were fighting at featherweight, but fighting like flyweights.
Mhm.
They were throwing every strike in the book at each other. I mean, it was really like just hands flying. You know, Santos with the takedowns. That was, I think, one of the things that ended up being a deciding factor for him amongst the gassing from Lee a little bit later on in the fight. But I mean, like this was just yeah, it was action packed. I mean, they really were like going at they were going at it so hard that they ended up hugging before the second round started because it was like, man, you know, it like felt like it should be the fight should be over. It felt like it had already been a full fight at that point.
I felt that. Yeah, I think this might have been I think it's having, like, the cartoon effect, whereas, like, this was just a fight cloud kinda deal. Like, I think at the time, I probably was having a really good time with this one, but looking back now the only thing that I can remember is like, wow, they really called this guy Mini Charles Oliveira, and he just went to war with, like, some guy. Like, I don't know, you know, didn't live up to the expectations that they're putting on him, but
Well, yeah, I mean that might be a little bit much, but we got to see what he's going to look like with a full camp and at a weight that he actually, is preparing for. Because, I
I
mean, this
swear this dude has been here for, like, a while. Maybe there's a
he
lot of
has,
Daniel Santos or Daniel Laceredas or, you know, whatever you wanna say that look just like this dude, but I don't know.
yeah. I
Well,
mean, you
yeah,
get
he's been
kind
here
of.
for a decent amount, but
I would
okay,
say you
continue.
get lost in the sea of Santoses sometimes. I do understand that aspect of it, but and also you have to remember too that Jung Young Lee is a road to UFC winner. So I mean, we've talked about our kind of thought process when it comes to the road to the UFC guys. Hit
The
and
average
miss.
Brazilian can beat the champion, maybe.
That is kind of the prevailing thought at the moment, or at least there are very few standouts that buck that trend, but it is just a few.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear
But
you.
yeah, but in this fight, I mean, Lee got the drop in the first, even though it was more of a trip on Santos's part.
Oh,
Uh,
that is right. They did drop each other, and they didn't
yeah,
count either of them, which was weird.
yeah, very dude. We can talk about the stats keeping on some of this stuff going forward because I'm really like I have to commit to a card where I actually do like the experiment that I've been talking about for a while, where like I watch every fight, like get the stat sheet and then watch every fight, like
Get you a clicker?
Yeah, exactly. For real, most definitely. Because I'm like, these stats just seem so. Even DC at one point said that he thought the stats were crazy. I think it was in the main event that he was saying that. But regardless, but yeah, no. So they didn't count the knockdowns, but both got them, and they were both working from the start. Round 2 and 3, Santos pulled ahead, and he kept the forward pressure for pretty much all of it. Worked in success with the takedowns. Second round takedown against the cage was too easy for Santos, was the note on Lee's side. I think that this is the things that, like, when it comes to the road to the UFC guys and Lee specifically, I mean, a couple of them are better with it, of course, but Lee is a boxer and needs to work on mixing the martial arts. He needs to work on his defensive wrestling a whole ton because Santos was able to basically like just essentially have him sit down. Like he went forward and Lee just sort of went with it, and then he just swept the legs from under him and corralled the legs up. So there was a couple of like notes for Lee. It's like it hurts because this is another one of those fights where it's like, yeah, it was 30-27s across the board, but it doesn't tell the full story of the fight. Because Lee really was doing some nice work with his hands, but like he's just not well-rounded enough in this sport. If you want to be a boxer, go be a boxer. You know what I mean? Like you have to be a mixed martial artist in mixed martial arts, and he just didn't have all of those elements yet. Not to say that he couldn't, but he is now 0-2, I believe, in the organization proper. So he needs to start hitting the ground running a little bit faster.
I think I'll say that it's good, one, that we watched the prelims, and it's good that you're giving praise to a fight like this because I think what's happening for me, because I do remember this now that we're going into it. This was a pretty good one at the time. Yes, fight of the night, second fight of the night. You can't really argue. But when it comes to there's better fights on the card, but then there's also worse card or fights on the card. It's like this one just falls in the middle of the road kind of deal compared to what we've seen. The only thing to take away is big things that happen in the main event. So it's good that you're giving praise to Santos and Lee here. So I'll give you that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would say keep an eye out for both these guys. I mean, if Lee should probably stick around for one more, I would hope. I hope that they're not going to cut him off of this. But both these guys have like a style that is fan friendly for sure, in my opinion. I mean, they were both dangerous all the way up to the final horn, even if they did start slowing down a little bit. It's just that Lee, that's what it ended up being. Is that Lee kind of just like as the fight progressed, he sort of just fell behind. And Santos is just the more experienced guy, so it made sense in that regard. But a couple of things to work on for Lee, like I said, the defensive wrestling and takedown defense, and then also I wanted to mention that his movement and spatial awareness also are something that he needs to work on a little bit better because if you're going to keep it on the feet as a boxer, you have to get out of the way of more shots than than you're giving. So,
Right.
And taking. So, I mean, like he was getting hit a little bit too much, I would say, but overall great fight. Definitely if you're a little bit fuzzy on it, go back and give it a rewatch. It'll surprise you.
Oh yeah, I might go watch this with my dad tomorrow then.
I would recommend it. Yeah, I enjoyed this fight a lot. Like I said, this is amongst this should have been recognized in some way, in my opinion. It's unfortunate it was so early because yeah, fight of the night is not too far off for me when it comes to this fight.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, moving on to is this early on the card? It was, wasn't it? Marc-Andre Barrio and Bruno Silva. Why was Bruno Silva in this fight?
I want to make note that if you recall last week, they wanted to make sure that everybody was on their screens watching for the early prelim featured bout. And this is what it was, guys. This was a guy who we hear this all the time, and I'm tired of hearing it after the fight where the commentators will be like, he was already thinking that he was just not really here for it. It's like, well, where did he say this? Where did I miss it? Because I'm tuned into a lot of stuff. Did he whisper this in your ear before he went in there, DC? Because if I would have known that Bruno Silva wasn't trying to make his career resurgence after he just retired, after he just got his eyes raked out, whatever you want to say, I clearly wouldn't have been in for it. But this was another moment where I asked, how do they know? How do they know? Because Marc-Andre, for decision, in my mind, was the easiest lock ever. Because Bruno Silva, when it comes to standing, hey, Chris Weidman has been the only man to take him out, and you know why he took him out. So, I'm not thinking Bruno Silva is going to come in here and be a slouch. The fact that he ended up being a slouch and got finished the way that he did is nuts because it was vicious, and he's definitely retired now. So,
I mean, this fight should not have happened. Period. This should not have taken place. Silva came in, missed weight by a pound, so already there was a little bit of an issue there. Anytime that there are weight misses, and we'll talk about this in the Aldo fight, of course, as well. But anytime that there are weight misses, I go through like a checklist in my mind, or like a potential checklist. It's like, what caused this? Was it just a bad camp? Was it a bad cut? Were there injuries involved? There's a couple of different factors as to why it could be. One of them on the list is always, especially when it comes to fighters who are a little bit farther into their careers, is he just not feeling it anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Turned out to be that with Aldo, of course. As I said, we'll talk about that. But with Silva, misses weight by a pound, whatever. A pound weight miss is not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, but just one of those notes starting off, it's like, okay, the signal is raised off of that. already retired, as you had mentioned, comes into this fight with Marc-Andre Barriault, had some flecks of early success. He had a few uppercuts, nice kick catch that got Barriault to the mat. But then he got a little bit too eager. He rushes Barriault, and as he's getting up, Barriault gets into the cage and starts landing the elbows in the clinch to finish Silva early, and that turned into a scary situation. So it's like you called him a slouch in this fight. He was certainly slouching into the mat when he was laid out onto it and had to be stretchered out of the venue.
Yeah, this was definitely not the sight you want to see as a fan. You're watching, you want to see it all end in friendly competition and come down to everybody, shaking hands at the end of it. But
Right.
Bruno Silva definitely it was definitely scary. We've seen scarier, but this one, it was scary for the fact that he wasn't moving after the fact, and these were some pretty crucial blows to the temple area. Um, and then yes, he was definitely slouched over, got stretchered out. And this is where we find out that the hospital is only 10 minutes away, everybody.
That's right.
And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, this was another awe moment that like they really knew better than me. Like I really was just off my game, I guess.
Oh yeah, well I picked Barriault to win the fight,
By
and
knockout? That's the
not by
that's the
knockout, yeah.
key.
See, I never
Okay.
go method though. This is what I'm telling. I cannot stress people like going method unless you are 10,000% sure. And even sometimes then, I mean, we'll talk about the BSD fight, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of people were thinking that was going to be a knockout. Turns out to be a submission. So yeah, I mean, method to me is just too many variables to have the win plus the method is like I'm money line all the way. But
Mhm.
either which way though, I was feeling going into this fight exactly, unfortunately, how I feel now and what I've been saying now, that like Silva never should have come back. I mean, it was the exact right time to leave when you did, based on the performances that we had seen before. I mean, you go back into previous episodes of this show and hear how we were talking about it then. I mean, I distinctly remember saying, yeah, now is the exact time that he should be retiring. If he's not feeling it, then it is absolutely appropriate because he's not performing the way that he maybe once had. And he was in some decent fights. There's nothing wrong with retiring when he would have if he had at the time. But now, I mean, to be retired is much worse than making the decision to.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, to be like this, to get put out like this is pretty crazy. I mean, everybody goes out, Frankie Edgar was another one that went out pretty viciously or whatever, but it doesn't have to be that way, guys. You could have just you got to figure another way out, other than fighting until the game puts you out. I don't know.
Exactly. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, as Kenny Rogers would say. But yeah, thankfully Silva is okay. We did get some updates on him throughout the evening. All
Record breaking, not one but two medical updates on Bruno Silva throughout the card.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was worth. I mean, or warranted, I would say. I mean, to be stretchered out like that is definitely a lot of people wondering if he was.
I know you don't have Twitter, but or not beyond Twitter as much, but they do have a slow motion of the elbow. Did you see that like Bruno's like skull like cracked? Like there's
Oh,
like a dent in it, like as soon
I
as the elbow lands.
I didn't actually see the slow mo of it, but when you say that, I did hear someone say that elsewhere, and I didn't know if they were just being hyperbolic about that or if it actually did happen. But if that did, I mean, it makes sense. Honestly, those elbows were really really nicely placed, and the amount of power put on them because Bruno was not doing anything to negate it. It was
Mhm.
like this is like when we talk about active clinch. I mean, we're talking a whole bunch about Silva right now, but on Barrio's side, you talk about active clinch. This is exactly what you want to see at close range. I mean, getting the enough distance to land the elbows the way that he did and laying them on with enough power to actually put your opponent out. More fighters need to be taking note. If you are in the clinch and you are sitting there not doing anything, you're not doing enough, and that should it should be counted as neutral. It should be nothing. But we often see a lot of fighters end up getting control time off of that, and that's just something that needs to change across the board. But if you don't want to just be sitting there, with your thumbs in places that they don't belong, throw those elbows.
Yeah, yeah, Marc Andre. I'm glad to see him back in the win column. I've liked this dude for a little bit. He does just seem like the type of dude who'll bring it. And here, once again, we see exactly what type of fighter he is. I mean, if you are gonna play the game, I mean, you're gonna get destroyed with elbows. So I respect it.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of have to, because I mean, it really was like he not only knocked him out, but he put him into the dirt. So I mean, like, yeah, great job for Marc Andre doing it in front of the home crowd too. You know, he's a Montreal guy, so you know it was nice to see the that was the first like real pop of the evening for Canada. So they were really behind him. That was good.
I don't know if you noticed, so there's a lot of time in between. They're showing Bruno Silva still face down. The cameraman's obviously getting the money shot, and then cut to Marc Andre, and he hits the like, all right, act cool, like I didn't just like kill this dude. Like he's got his arms up on the cage, like just kind of hanging out. Like it was a pretty funny sight, but in a very unfortunate situation.
Right. And props to Barrio for after celebrating, he was concerned about his opponent. He's a good sportsman about everything. So obviously he didn't want that, and it would have been terrible for him if it had been worse. So I think it all worked out how it should in the end. Thankfully, Silva's okay. Barrio, good sport about everything, gets his win. Unfortunate for Silva, but for the love of God, do never ever step foot inside of a cage again, dude. Like, you need to be done now.
Yeah, losing to Weidman was probably the indicator that you were just not in it anymore.
And then there was the one fight after that where it was like he was like spinning around, and what wasn't it? Wasn't there one more, or was that
Yeah,
that fight?
no, it definitely was one more, but it's so forgettable. But yeah, Ishmael Nurdiov, yeah, Ishmael, yeah. Oh, actually, he actually was pretty good in his last performance. But either way, yeah,
Yeah,
Bruno, hang it up.
right. I mean, it was like he just had he looked off from the Weidman fight on, and it got worse progressively. And
Mhm.
now you're seeing the end result of that. Stick with retirement, dude. Good, no shame in retiring when this is what's going to happen. You can't continue to go out there and just get mauled. It's not good.
Facts.
So, all right. Well, let's move on over here. Navajo Sterling versus Ivan. What'd you think of this one?
Well, first I would try to make a reference that you may not understand. But so on NBA 2K, you spend VC, and when you get a lot of VC, that's when your dude starts getting the tattoos, that's when he starts getting the accessories. Navajo Sterling is one of these guys that is definitely upped his VC, and he's definitely went to the tattoo shop. He's got the new hairline in. All is good. The performance, though,
Yeah.
is not standing up to a person who's going to get 50K bonuses, that's going to be able to get new tattoos for a long time in their career. So you need to come out here and finish people, because me, big brained as I am, I said Navajo City Kickboxing, they play the outside, they play the counter game, and exactly what I thought was going to happen happened. Shout out to Ivan Urslan. He actually did put up a better fight than some people do against Navajo. But Navajo really, he landed some clean strikes. I will say that there were some strikes that would definitely put other people out. So it's not like he was just ineffective. It was just it's kind of interesting to say that, like, he may I'm trying to think of the way to say it, because like the light heavyweights are taking the shots that he's throwing out, but he's definitely not somebody that could move down a weight class. But maybe he can move up. Like right here, I think he's just like in a state that he's not going to be able to like have a huge ceiling. Like he's not going to thrive if he can't knock out Ivan Urslan. I mean, you're gonna have to finish some people. But if you go up and you're a tank, you don't have to finish them, but you can put on a master class at that point, because they're not gonna be able to keep up with you.
And that might be the trend, that because we've been seeing a couple of light heavyweights that have moved up and had some really good success there at heavyweight. So perhaps that may be in the cards. Either way, I'm in the same camp to an extent here. Like, Navajo Sterling, now having seen him fought for every fight that he's had in the organization and seeing him fight live, um, I'm not sold on this dude being a killer. He got touched early in this fight. He got a cut on his eye from the second combo that Urslan threw. Urslan was sticking and moving nicely early on, and I think he took that first round. Round two, Sterling did a lot of work wrestling to no reward. That's another thing that I noted. I'm like, he's initiating these wrestling exchanges and then doesn't get anything out of it, and then ended up getting reversed. They eventually break and get back out to range, so it really was just kind of nothing. Urslan was working Navajo with the hands. I gave him those first 2 rounds, honestly. Like, I mean, I think this was the wrong call in this fight as far as how I was looking at it. Um, Sterling found his rhythm in the third, and he did nearly finish Urslan in the third. So obviously, credit where credit is due. The ref probably could have stopped it at one point.
Oh yeah, this was goofy as hell. We do got to talk about that.
Where it could have been stopped and didn't get stopped.
Dude, fucking even Urslan went prone. Like he literally was standing and just like laid it. He got clipped in the back of the head, which was it was dangerous, but it was so funny at the time because he just laid down and then he just stands back up. Like it was just such a goofy encounter after
Yeah.
you get knocked out. Normally knockouts are pretty goofy because like you're fighting for your life here, kind of deal. But this one definitely ends up on the top 10 funny moments of the card.
Fair. Yeah. So it was a strong finish for Sterling, is what I'm trying to say. But I mean, those first 2 rounds, I thought Urslan was doing really nice work. I mean, he's got good power in his hands. He's just slower and a little bit clunky. But that's also a note that I had about Sterling. I mean, Sterling has good speed for a light heavyweight, but he's clunky too and takes too long to settle in. He's still early in his career, so that can change, but he just needs to find his pace quicker. And Urslan, I thought, was slower, but had more significant shots through the first 2 rounds. It was 29-28, 29-28, 29-27 for Sterling. I just, yeah, I don't know. I think that this, if you wanted to 10-8 that last round, which I don't even think would have been the right call, but if you did, then this should have been a draw, in my opinion.
Yeah, this one was definitely like I know I'm being hard on Navajo. It was definitely it was not the greatest performance up until the third round. The third round it definitely got a little dicey and Navajo came out on top. But yeah, he was taking a lot of shots early from somebody who was like even DC was saying like, you know, it wasn't the most advanced things that he was doing. He was just throwing some overhand rights and throwing some right hooks and Navajo was getting caught. But like you said, he was trying to settle in. Took him really long to actually figure out what he was going to do to dismantle, if you will, how he was going to neutralize his opponent. We talked about how he had that that little twitch where he would rub his nose. Didn't really see it until it got a little dicey. When he got a little tired, then he did it like maybe once or twice. But I will say, getting rid of a tick or whatever you want to say, he did pretty damn good. Um, doesn't keep his hands the highest. Like I said, he was getting cracked just a little bit, but the ending sequence in a different situation, that is a knockout finish. So I'll give him some credit there. I was being a little harsh to start.
No, yeah, I mean, I think that we're in line on this one, and I'm glad you brought up the tick because you are right. Like it wasn't as noticeable early. Like he wasn't doing it as much. I think that that's kind of the tell is when things start getting hairy is when he starts to do that more. When it's really in the thick of it, and I think probably a little bit of nerves. Perhaps I mean it might play a factor in that a little bit as well. But so it's good to see him not doing it as much because then that means he's a little bit more comfortable in the cage and in his skin as a fighter and all that. But after the Tokos fight, he said on the mic, yeah, I'm early in my career, I'm still developing and all this kind of stuff. There's a limit to that, and I'm not saying that it's now. I mean, 2 fights in the organization, you are still early in your career. I'm 100% okay with that aspect of it. He's 7-0 right now. This has been a really bad year for undefeated fighters. If he fights again this year, there might be potential for the O to get taken, perhaps. But you have an option there. If you fix the things that we're talking about here, then maybe not. Be first more often, be quicker to the draw, be more on your game from the start of the fight, and get out of the way of some of these heavy shots because it's only going to get worse. It's going to definitely be worse than Ivan Urslan going
Yeah.
forward at light heavyweight. So, I'm a little bit skeptical of Navajo Sterling, even though I like a lot of people. I want to like him. I don't have anything against him. I think, that there are things to like about him. It's just not, the package has not come together just yet, and we need to see a more evolved version of him if he's going to be something in this division.
Now, the lasting thing that I'll say is that in the middle of the fight, before the third round, I definitely had the thought by saying, I'm too confident for somebody who's this green in the sport. 6-0, hasn't really seen the world, there's a lot of different styles out there. They gave him a straight boxer with Ivan Urslan, and it was close up until the third. So whatever you want to say. But yeah, at the end of the day, I moved all the flags because I got to get Navajo Sterling's New Zealand flag to be hung up right right over there. So shout out Zach. You know, go ahead and sub to my boy Thinker.
Yeah, shout out to Zach. Shout out to Nuttin' Butt Muffin over there as well. Appreciate both you guys hanging out with us. And Mr. Rage Quit as well. Saw you earlier, brother.
And
Appreciate you.
no, there was somebody else we saw earlier too that was new. What was his name? I can't even
Oh,
scroll back up.
Monticello.
There you go.
Yeah,
Shout out.
Monticello. Yeah, appreciate all you guys. Thanks for hanging with us.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's about it for Mr. Sterling. Hopefully he comes out a little bit stronger next time. We'll see what level of competition they put him up against now, because once you start racking up the wins as an undefeated fighter, they start trying to incrementally raise you pretty quickly. So we'll see what happens.
He's gonna have a target on his back, not just being 7-0, but being with 7 professional bouts. I mean, somebody's gonna be the one that's gonna have to show you what's up. So you just better be ready for a war soon.
Absolutely, most definitely, and him in a war is going to be interesting, because I don't think he's really been tested that way just yet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of lack of wars, Iwan Kutelaba versus Modestas Bukauskas. So this one, as far as styles went, I think that this was pretty much as expected. Modestas was selectively striking, I would say. Iwan with his wild caveman aggression, sadly not enough attacks to make it definitive enough, unfortunately. What'd you think of this one?
This one is super funny because, I talk about how do they know compared to me. This one right here is so funny is because it was just a coin flip. So nobody was definitively supposed to win this one. But when you watch this fight compared to, actually, I want to make the note. It's like, you got to remember, these are 2 dudes that came off of finishes in the last time they fought on the same card. And they said they want to fight again. And they said they'll fight each other. And here we are. I would like to point out that Modestas did not fight like he was talking on that mic after that first knock. He did go out there and knock out the last dude, and he was willing to take some shots on that one. This one right here, he did not want to stand with Cutelaba very, very often. Like I know, not like he was shooting, but he was so timid and he was so evasive and so on the back foot. I really was. The way that I thought it was going to play out is that Cutelaba was gonna buy us. We were gonna buy into the hype off the last finish, but we should know deep down that he's not that great. But when you watch a performance like this, you would really believe that Cutelaba is decent compared to Modestas, because Modestas is absolute garbage. He really is just not good after a performance like this. And the fact that there was a 30-27 for this dude is ridiculous. So go on.
That was what I was going to say. You ask how they know when referencing Vegas, they know because this was a goddamn robbery, is what.
Yes. There's another one we'll talk about, but this one specifically,
sure.
They know.
This is the continuation, because, like I said, I thought that the last fight was the wrong call personally. This was a continuation of that, and there are a couple of them on here. But yeah, I mean, this was kind of crazy. So the scorecards were 30-27 Kutelaba, 30-27 Bukauskas, and then 29-28 Bukauskas. After that, I was like, what were they watching on this one? Because it made it, like, even after the rewatch, there was really not much to be said. Not really on either side to an extent, but Kutelaba was winning off of activity alone. It wasn't as much wild shit from Kutelaba as usual. Usually he's a little bit more of a crazy man. That's why he's entertaining to watch. But Modestas just wasn't doing enough, period. He was way too poised out there. And like you said, I mean, he in the last fight, he was willing to take some shots. Like, he was trying to play the stick and move game in a way that just wasn't happening. And then there was like clinch situations that this was one, I believe that, they had to break it up on the cage in this fight. So exactly. Shout out to Dan Mergliotta for actually being a referee who will do that. Cause so many times these referees will let them sit on the cage with no activity whatsoever for way longer than it should be. But first round was slow. Second round was way more active on Kutelaba's side. It lands a nice heavy overhand after the ref finally broke it up, as we were talking about. Bukauskas just stuck in neutral for the first 2 rounds. Bukauskas did come alive a little bit in the end of the first round, but it was way too late for it to really matter all that much. And then in round 3 was better for Modestas, but not by much. Still kind of, shrug-inducing performance, shrug-inducing fight. commentary got this one right. Iwan took the first two at the very least, and for any judge to have given 30-27 to Modestas Bukauskas, let alone giving him 2 rounds, is just madness to me. That's just wild.
These dudes were wiping nacho chips off their fucking lap. Like, they were not watching this goddamn fight because Modestas did not do anything. And Cutelaba, like, yes, he is wild, but like you said, the pressure, the activity, the forward pace, that should have sold it because there's not much else to sell other than the close encounters where they both traded and cracked each other. Modestas a lot less. The clinch situations, I'm glad you brought that up, that they got broken up, because if you watch how Cutelaba, he didn't say anything, but he wore it on his face like, you motherfucker for stopping this. Like, he was just like I wanted my clinch work, dude, and it's really funny. But like, gosh, this fight was so, I having Modestas and knowing you lost, but somehow you win on the judges' scorecard. It's a weird feeling because like I screwed somebody over big time, like,
Oh
wow.
yeah. Well, and now, I mean, the thing too that they had mentioned and is the truth is that he's on a 3-fight win streak now. That means something in this sport. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to, racking up wins, like especially for guys at this level, this type of fighter, I think it's extremely important to note because Iwan Kutelaba is a dude who, for a while there, was on the chopping block. I mean, he was thinking that he was going to be taken out of the organization altogether. In fact, I think he might have actually been out of the organization for a little while. Don't quote me on that one. But either way, the point is that like these are dudes who through it's just the type of fighters that they are. Their style is not super fan friendly. They're not like big names in the sport, but like you can count on them at times, but they're not consistent either. So when you have a win streak involved like Modestas has, that goes so much farther than what now Iwan Kutelaba has to deal with, which is a candy cane record. So I mean, I think that the robbery here does kind of factor in pretty heavily and is very unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you have somebody like Cutelaba that you're constantly doubting, and you look at their record, and it doesn't tell the whole story. Cutelaba is one of those dudes that's kind of been fucked over a lot in his career. Like, early stoppage with Ankalaev and then rematched and then gets fucking flatlined. He's not the most lucky guy. It's
Right.
so I'll say that. But coming in like this or going out like this, if Cutelaba was a lot better, this is one of those moments where Dana's like, we'll take care of you, buddy. Don't worry about that. But like the 30-27 both ways should tell you that nobody knew what was happening.
Anytime that they show the scorecards as a graphic on the screen during the broadcast, you know that a robbery has taken place.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Um, eh, it is what it is. Let's keep it moving over here. All right. So next up, restoring some faith over here, I would say to an extent, and perhaps dropping a whole lot of stock on the other side. Jasmine Jasdavicius versus Jessica Andrade. You heard of a 10-7 round. This was a 10-7 fight.
I've come to some conclusion, and this is gonna sound bad, but I don't know what is making me not the biggest fan of women finishers. I think it's because I expect a lot more from both of them. Like, no way they're gonna get they're no way they're gonna get subbed in the first round. Like, this is Jessica Andrade. She's been around the block. Like, she gets subbed, but like, come on, like you're seventh ranked still. And we need to talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit, for being seventh ranked Jessica Andrade, like this she should have been out the top 15 a while ago if this is how she performs. Jasmine Jusevicius is not somebody that I'm like super high on. I know she's very good. She's on a win streak. Fun fact, she did lose to Natalia Silva already. So rematch in store, who knows? But
Yeah.
Natalia's obviously doing better things now. We'll talk about it. But the fact she came in and just mopped Andrade, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I don't this is another performance where it's like I just feel worse for the opposition than the winner. It's like if this was a formidable opponent, if she would have actually put up a fight, I would be like, okay, Jasmine's on to something. But you just had a grappling dummy. You just walked in there and did your fucking bidding. Like, Jesus.
Well, that's why I don't feel the same about for Andrade. I think that this is extremely telling at this stage of her career. It's like I said last week when we were talking about these fights. Andrade is a fighter who has let me down a lot over the years. I really thought that she was going to be like a dominant champion, like she had the potential to be that. But I mean, Jasmine made this look easy. She made this look like a walk in the park. Essentially the whole fight can be broken down in like a single sentence. It was shoot, pick up, drop, transition to the back, flatten her out, choke her out. That's all that it was. This looked like an amateur fight, which is a terrible look for a former champion like Jessica Andrade. It's as you said. I mean, like the fact that she's top 10 with a performance like that. I mean, there's no new tricks that should need to be learned. There's no new techniques that are coming your way. Jasmine Jasudavicius didn't do anything new in this fight. This was just a textbook. This is how you handle an opponent if the opponent's not going to do anything, and that's what happened. So I mean, I just don't. I think that Jessica Andrade might be at the point where it's starting to look like hanging it up might be the right thing to do if that's the way that she's going to be handled by a fighter like. I mean that and. Not to take anything away from Jasmine Jasudavicius, I do like her. I think that she's, there might be contender potential for her, possibly, maybe. Depends on what the top of the division looks like when she's up in it, if she makes it that far. But now coming in at 7th place at the very least, top 10 fighter now. I mean, like Jessica Andrade, like the backslide is just dramatic at this point, and what old dogs, new tricks, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I'm a little concerned for her in that regard.
Yeah, to Mank's credit with the comment, I mean, yeah, Jasmine is good. I'm not gonna be a hater too much, but like I said, I just don't know what it is about women finishers. They just, I don't know, because specifically when it comes to women who finish and they're Jasmine or they're Jillian, whatever you want to say, I'm not seeing the world beater in those type of talents. And when it comes to that, like, I mean, I know it takes a lot to be a champion, and people like Jasmine, and I could be wrong. Is Jasmine a lot older? She's a lot older than we. 36. I mean, yeah, too. So it's gonna be hard, but I mean, if anybody's able to do it, I want to see it happen. So make it interesting.
Yeah. Well, only other note that I had was that I like the way that Jasmine hangs her paw out there when she's on the feet, for distance gauging. Of course, she was a much taller fighter, longer fighter. She's one of the few fighters that actually keeps her hand closed when she's leading with the hand. So I appreciated that. And she earned herself a black belt. Finally, a fight where a black belt actually makes sense. She got a submission, black belt achieved off of that. I think that was fine. Yeah, no, I'm a fan of Jasmine. I like her. I think she's, she got a sweet personality as well. She's a personable lady. So I got no problem with her personally. And I think that her moving up is making sense. I think that this is kind of a win that makes sense in the division shaking out, just like it is with the men. I mean, over time, obviously fighters that are there for a while are going to shake out. It's just crazy to me that it's Jessica Andrade and it happened that way. Like this would be a fight that if I was her team, there would be a lot of introspection and reflection going on at this point. Like what happened here? Where was the fatal flaw here? Because it should not have been this easy.
Yeah, I talked about with Bruno Silva. It's like, where do they get the information that somebody's on their way out, kind of deal? Where are they getting the insider? I think this is our telling time to take the note that Jessica's probably on her way out after the next one or the next one.
I mean, if this happens again, then absolutely. She could be one of those fighters that is kind of like turns into gatekeeper status. Maybe gets her, gets a couple of people as like stepping stones or whatever. Maybe wins, loss. Goes into candy cane territory. There's a couple of different things that could happen, but just I mean, this fight specifically with how it went down is, I think, very much a turning point. It would feel like.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that would actually be nice. I'm pretty sure Jessica Andrade actually gets a pretty good chunk of money every time she fights. So why would you quit if you're going to be able to fight top talent and get a good payday? So
I
whatever.
guess. I mean, for as long as they'll let her do it, right?
Exactly. And they'll let people do it for as long as they want. We've seen tributes for people who are a lot less credentialed than the people we'll talk about later in the card. So
Fair. Yeah. And former champion Jessica Andrade too. So that kind of goes a little bit of a long way. So you can always say that when she's fighting a new prospect, win over a former champion always looks good, that kind of thing.
100%.
Well, as we move on here, we got a real active chat tonight, so appreciate all you guys. Shout out to TJF and shout out to Sierra West Coast as well. Appreciate you in there.
Hey, swaggy.
Moving forward here. All right, so this was the featured prelim, and this was one where I don't think that I could have stuck my foot any farther into my mouth if I was trying to jam it in there with a tire iron. This is Mike Malott versus Charles Radke. Fun fact, though, Charles Radke, the only American fighter on this card. So thank you very much for your service on this one, Chuck, making us look great down here in the States.
Yeah, no, this one, honestly, I felt it as the fight was starting. I thought to myself, I I might have fucked up here. Might have fucked up here.
Well, let me before you go on. Let
Okay.
me ask you though: was it just me, or did Radke look noticeably leaner slash depleted in this fight?
I don't know about Radke. I will talk about later somebody that I thought the same thing about, but it did not matter in that case. So I don't know how much I'll gauge it on this one.
I mean, if you
But
look at
I
the picture that's on ESPN here on the screen, if you're watching us, I mean, like he looks beefy there. He seemed like he was like just I don't know. It looked like emaciated almost a little bit. Like he looked
Mhm.
like he had dropped a lot of weight, and I don't know if it was a bad cut or whatever. If I'm speculating a little bit. I'd have to go back and compare it. But to me, at least, just looking at it off face value when he was in the cage to start the fight, I was like, he looks noticeably smaller than I had seen him in the past.
Yeah. I don't know about that one. Again, we'll talk about the one that I think later. But this one right here, as the fight started, I remember thinking Mike Malott does have a lot of finishes. And, he's not somebody that you'd look at and think like, oh yeah, he can finish fights. And I think that goes against him, when I'm looking at the line and I see him as a favorite against a killer, not necessarily a killer, but somebody who will go out there and put their balls out there and just try to fucking finish. I don't think Mike Malott gives off the impression like, oh yeah, he could win a war. But when you come into this one and you understand that he has like 6 first round knockout, maybe it's like 9 first round knockouts or something like that. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, he's
Yikes.
actually pretty solid. So when I remembered or when I saw that on the screen, I'm thinking, ah, shit, man, maybe. And he does have a very well rounded skill set in the striking. He's very precise and he's very calculated. Did I think he was going to knock out Radke the way that he did? No, but it was a very great performance for him. I will say that. And he viciously knocked out Radke.
No,
Go ahead.
yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, all respect to Mike Malott. I never disliked Mike Malott. I just saw things that happened, in the trajectory of his time in the organization that had given me pause. I mean, I don't think there's any two ways to get around what happened in the Neil Magny fight. I think that's always going to be a sticking point unless you significantly overcome it. This is a good way to significantly overcome it.
First
You know,
round finishes, not knockouts, but he does have 5 knockouts, and a lot of them do happen in the first round. Just wanted to
Got you.
clarify.
Thank you for that. But yeah, no, this was a solid performance through and through, not even just in the finish. I really liked the way that he was using that oblique kick to keep distance when he wanted to keep that range. It was really effective, and he kept going to it. So I was like, there's a lot of times with the oblique kick that like it's a very dangerous kick, of course. I mean, that can, really like put your knee out of whack. And I mean, we've seen it. We've seen people. What are you rolling your eyes for?
Guys, this is MMA. This is the sport of hurting people. If
No,
you're
I'm not
mad
saying
that
you
he
shouldn't do
hurts
it.
your leg, like you got another thing in store when he hurts your head. Like, I don't know.
It's a fair point. My point with it is more like that it can be debilitating, I guess is what I'm trying to say with that. Like it can put you at a severe disadvantage if it lands at an angle that that is good, but he wasn't using it to damage. He was using it for distance management. And that's why I was like, he kept going to it, and I thought it was a really effective tool for that.
I wonder if Bruno Silva would really like his knee kicked in right now, other than his fucking skull caved in. But that's
All
just my
right.
opinion. I know people feel a certain way about it, and there's a lot. I normally lean towards the casuals that don't like that one because it's like, guys, this is the fucking sport. Like, you're mad that I kicked you in the knee rather than the calf. Like, whatever.
I
Sure.
never said I didn't like it. What do you I
No,
think
no,
you're
not you, but I'm
okay.
talking about like, the outward. I've heard it specifically from other people, and that is the casual viewership that has done that. And I just like kind of blow it off like, you must not be watching people get their face split open. Like, I don't know. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no. There's nothing wrong with the oblique kick. I
yeah,
thought it was great. I think that he was using it in an effective way. If he had put more power on it, he might have actually been able to get him out that way. I mean, that's an easy TKO. We've
yeah.
seen. I always go back to the Khalil Roundtree TKO with that one. So, But yeah, no, I thought that that was a really effective tool because the way that he was utilizing it, it allowed him to keep the distance as he wanted it to be. This is the fight that Mike Malott wanted, is
Mhm.
basically what I saw out of this. And that's a great way to do it. You know, you keep the distance you want, you're able to navigate it the way that you want to do it, and that's exactly what he did. Radke just didn't get in Malott's face like I expected. That, I think, is the biggest takeaway of all of this. He held back so much in that first round. It allowed Malott to get his striking off exactly as he wanted it, and as expected, it was clean. That's the one note I would say that I was accurate about in my prediction. Our prediction on this one was that, you know, Mike Malott has clinical striking. I mean, like, he's really he was a striking coach, they were saying, before he,
Yeah.
you know, took his own career seriously. So I mean, you know, the dude is very, very methodical with his striking, and when you allow him to have his fight, you're going to get touched. You're going to get touched with accurate strikes, and that's exactly what happened here. Early in round 2, Mike catches Chuck with the comboed left hook. Another instance, just like Brad Katona, where the face was wide open for it. He goes down, mouthpiece out on the mat. So long and farewell.
I don't know if you noticed it. Me and Nav were talking about it, but at the time of the knockout, when you watch it in slow motion, Radke's trying to say something, and I don't know what he's saying. In my opinion, he might be saying like, "I'm done. I'm out. I'm out." But like, dude, he's trying to talk, and then he just gets smashed in the mouth, and it's like he's like trying to like, and he's just getting fucked. It was unfortunate for the only American on the card because he did make us look a little bad there, but proper Mike with a proper performance. And I actually did like his post-fight speech. It was actually
I
pretty decent.
was just going to say, yeah, two things about that. One, Radke put himself into the position of being like Captain America over here. That was on him. Nobody
Yeah.
asked him to do that. You know what I mean? So he decided that, oh, you know, Canada and the fucking hockey thing or whatever, with them booing the national anthem, whatever it was with that, he decided that he needs to show out for America, and that was going to be his way of selling this fight. You know, that was not the performance that you want out of that. But yeah, no, on the other side of things, I agree completely. I thought it was another very nice hometown moment for Malott. You know, Malott, on the other side of the coin, he took Canada on his back and decided, you know, I'm always going to go out there and fight for Canada and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, you know, I mean, Canada does kind of need a hero right now as far as this sport goes. So if Mike Malott wants to be that guy, then he just needs to make sure that he can make it through all 3 rounds of a fight, and then perhaps that could be the thing. Also, wanted to note, I thought the "fuck you, Radke" chants were very funny.
They were definitely funny. I 100% agree. Another last funny moment that happened is, so after the fight, Mike Malott's celebrating, and you see him asking like the little. He's like, "Can I get up here? Can I get up? Can I get on the cage?" And then like they cut the camera away, and then when they come back, it's him with the flag, and he's like, it's just really funny to see, you know.
It was a kind of an iconic moment there too.
Yeah,
I was, you know, you got the flag on your back when you're sitting on the
it's
cage.
covered in blood, not yours, you know. Like, just
Yeah, no,
loved
that's
it.
look, and you know, we kind of joke about it a little bit, but if you're a young Canadian kid, as Mike Malott said that he was, you know, oh, this is just a, you know, a young kid from wherever, Ontario's dream kind of thing. If you're a young kid seeing that, that does go a long way though. So, you know, I mean, these Canadian young people who are into the sport and look up to these fighters, like, I think that Mike Malott is a fine role model.
I hear that. Yeah,
So
I hear.
yeah, you know, so yeah, I got nothing but respect for Mike Malott. I just hope that he can be consistent with these types of performances, because I don't want to. Like, that's another note about why I felt the way that I did about this fight to begin with, was that going back, I was a person after seeing him on the Contender Series who said this could be the new Canadian dude. This could be the guy. So like when the Neil Magny fight happened, I was like, ah, damn, like, you know, I was putting some stock into this dude, and now that's all crushed. So I just don't want him to be a dude who is going to start candy caning over here, like start being checkerboardy. Like, put together a nice solid win streak and be consistent, Mike Malott, and then you'll be golden.
Well, I think that's key. And so when you talk about Mike Malott and the performances that he's put up so far, I mean, we've still yet to see somebody. I mean, Neil Magny, of course, but other than that, up until the finish on that, we haven't seen somebody who's taken him out of his element, taken him to the deep water, other than Neil Magny. Charles Radke, we thought was going to be that type of fighter who was going to make it gritty and make it a war up until the bell, but not what happened. So I'm still curious to see when Mike Malott goes against a real killer on the feet, who's not going to let him get comfortable, who's not going to let him set up his game plan, set up the strikes that are going to land very early in the fucking round. But Charles Radke, we might have been overhyping and overvaluing what we were seeing here. He really is just true to life. He's just a boxer. Like that's nothing more than what we see here.
I'm on the fence about that one. And maybe it's wishful thinking more than anything, because I do think that there, like, at least I have seen flecks of greatness out of Radke in the past. Like, this was not, a shot in the dark prediction from us. You know what I mean? We've been watching his fights. We know what we've seen from him prior. I want to believe that this was an off night for him, but that could just, again, be wishful thinking. And again, I feel like there was some other background element of this. I thought he looked a lot smaller. I thought he looked very disinterested in dogfighted engagement, like the way that I had anticipated him coming into this fight. So, perhaps that there might have been something else. Maybe I'm being a little too generous with him. If this happens again, then yeah, then I would.
I mean, if it happens again, that's 3 in a row for him. So
Is he coming off of a loss already? He was coming off a loss coming into
Protest.
that one. Oh yeah, that was no. There, what did he had a fight after that he won, didn't he? I thought he got a knockout in his last fight.
Oh, you're right. Oh, Matt Schmelzberger. Yeah,
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 Semmelsberger,
whatever.
exactly. So, well, all right, we'll see now. But can he? Well, and maybe that's where we need to land on this. Maybe that's the grand conclusion, is that he might just be one of those guys that can do it over a certain level of fighter, but he hits a ceiling.
Yeah, and if Mike Malot's the ceiling, I mean, I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
But
He's good, but he's not what we know. So like, I mean, if you match the Protest and Mike Malott, I mean, we know this is a bad day for somebody. So that's
yeah.
all I'm saying.
So yeah, and maybe Mike Malott is coming into his own as well, because he is a dude who is still also kind of early in his pro career in all manner of things. Basically, I mean, he Contender Series, I think 3 fights in the organization now, maybe 4. I want to say 3. So there's still potential for him to continue rising up and being better than we're giving him credit for at the moment. So either way, prove it, guys. That's all you got to do. And good one from a lot to do that now.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Even if I sound like I was hating a little bit, Mike Malott.
I mean, yeah, I think we're both kind of in that same boat a little bit. It's like, it's not hate, but it's like I think it's just being realistic, being realist about it.
Yeah.
But,
and before we go into the main card, I want to shout out David Burns, of course.
Yes, David Burns, and also Damp Butthole. Got to do it. Got to give the shout out to a username like that. That's some good stuff.
Especially if they're wearing the Ohio player inspired G-string.
Oh, I mean, available now at Yama.store.
Hell yeah.
Hey, let's move on to the main card here. Starting this thing off, this was a fight we talked a good amount about last week because of how ridiculous this matchmaking was. Didn't go exactly as expected, but close enough, I would say. This is Benoit Saint Denis versus Kyle Prepolek. What'd you think?
I feel bad for how I was watching and viewing this on the watch along, because I was very harsh on BSD. That entire first round, I was saying, this guy, he's just not what we thought he was. Like, I'm very upset that he's not just starching, bro. Like, already, like the longer it went on, I'm like, it should have already happened. Like, it should have already happened by now. It should have already been happening. No way you're getting check hooked by this dude. No way he's leaving lumps on your face. Like, no way, BSD. But as I have concluded, and I will once again give a shout out to the Mank in the Discord, he gave a perfect explanation of just BSD's fighting style is really just the marauder base. I mean, he's going to have to get hit. That's the only way he's going to fight. He's going to charge in, put his face forward. He'll take some shots, but then he's going to wrestle you. And we got to remember, guys, BSD is very deadly everywhere, but at heart, he's a grappler. He's just going to muscle you and try to get a hold of you. Like I said, he's going to eat the shots before that happens. Not necessarily in every case, but that's his game plan. And so coming into this, I was thinking, dude, he should mop him, knock him out, elbow his face into death. You saw what Moicano did to you. You need to do that to somebody else now. Take some notes. And that's just not his game plan. That's just not what's in his arsenal. He wants to wrestle. I mean, he wants to just be body to body and making you tire out from exhaustion. And then he's going to wear down on you. And then eventually he will get the finish. I know we were wanting it very soon, but the fact that he got it, very good on his part, because if he wouldn't have got the finish, a lot of questions would have been answered here. So this was a very good performance, but at the time I was very hard on BSD. I'm still a decently big fan because I mean the Marauder style is pretty fun. Like he does go out there and he's ready to do his fucking thing.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the issue here is, of course, the fact that it was a minus 1400 price tag on BSD, and the fact that he was fighting Kyle Prepelic, who is, not to be disrespectful, but kind of a nobody in the grand scheme of things. Again, shout out to him for taking the fight in the first place. I thought it was kind of crazy that he was booked for a fight in another promotion, and then took this one instead. So obviously some big balls on Prepelic. So I give him a lot of credit in that regard. But in the grand scheme of the sport, not a name that a lot of people would recognize off the bat. You have to be a really deep in the weeds MMA nerd to know who he is.
Mhm.
So all of those things being said, it would equal up to, a real quick finish. It would be like a one-punch knockout kind of thing in a lot of people's minds. So that is not what happened here. Prepelic was certainly a sacrificial lamb, but he did make it to the second round. He did, it was a little bit more of a fight than a lot of people were anticipating. So I can understand the criticisms on BSD for that element of it, but I mean, I didn't think that there was anything really all that wrong with it, except for the fact that he probably could have gotten to the striking earlier if he wanted to.
He could have not got punched in the face a lot. Like this dude dude, I'm
A
telling you,
couple. I mean, I think you're exaggerating a little bit on the amount of strikes he took, though.
it's not the amount because obviously look at the totals. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to total 14 strikes that he landed, listen, all 14 of those had me thinking one strike ago, you should have already knocked him out, dude. Like this is a guy that is just he's not on your level. And like that was what you should have been out here to prove. And yes, you did eventually do it. But I think unfortunately stylistic matchup. This is not the dude who's going to go Ilya Taporia and ask you to stand in the middle at the first 2 seconds and then knock your head off, whatever you want to say. BSD is a grinder type of fighter. So the fact that they gave him a person that probably could have been finished in the first round was not the greatest instance for him, probably. But at the end of the day, he did what he was always supposed to do. He was going to finish him. He was going to go in here, make it fun. And I don't know if it raises his stock too much, but I mean, I can't dislike the style. He does go out there and put it on the line.
Well, I guess that is the interesting question, right? Like, if you have a minus 1400 next to your name, as far as like the people who are betting on this sport, and you go out there and make them bite their nails for an entire round, does it raise your stock?
Who's stock? Kyle?
No, Saint Denis.
I mean,
Because it's like, look, you were supposed to come out here and annihilate him, and I had to sit there and watch you, on the ground for an entire round almost. And now I will say, I mean, like, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but like when he was on the ground, when they were doing all of this grappling, like BSD did stay pretty active in those situations. I mean, he was landing a couple of pretty nice shots on the ground, ended the round in a standing backpack situation on
mhm.
Prepelic's back. So it's not like it was just an inactive wrestling grappling kind of situation. But if I'm sitting there and like, I'm somebody who's maybe a little bit more casual to the sport, and I just want an easy payday off of a crazy, crazy favorite, and I have to
Yeah,
sit there.
bet the minus 1400 guys. That's fucking Gianni at the ESPN desk right now.
But
So
yeah, but my point is like, now I'm having to sit there and watch this first round being like, I mean, yeah, he might have won that round, but now, I mean, this could go any number of different directions if this fight, the longer that the fight goes on, if you into round two, if he does that again, I mean, is this really the guy that I'm going to want to bet on more? So that's, I guess, the question is like, how does this affect his stock, being that he didn't go out there and just walk through him?
Um, I don't know if I have the answer because, like I said, he was already on shaky ground. If anything, this just leveled his stock out. Like he was already plummeting downwards in like the idea of the skill set that he has and what he's able to do against top contenders. If anything, this just like plateaued it out at the bottom. This didn't like this is not dropping it, but it's like okay, he did it, but it wasn't what we needed it to be, but he still did it. So you can't really say that's negative points. It's like, just level it out. The only
Yeah.
thing that I will say though,
Hmm.
speaking of the numbers, this is probably one of the more accurate lines. Like out of all the minus 14, 15, 1100s, out of all those, this makes total sense. A short notice guy who's not even in the organization for the last 6 years against a dude that's the god of war. Like this makes sense for him to be minus 1,400. Now, yes, he should have done it sooner, but he did end up doing it. This was free money if you wanted to take the minus 16, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, and really, I think that finally when Saint Denis let his hands go, it was nice to see. I mean, like the variety of strikes that he lands is nice. You know, head body. I mean, you know, he's constantly mixing it up. I appreciated it once it finally got off that way, and then gets the takedown into the head and arm, and that head and arm was sunk in really really quick. Prepelic, I think Dom even said it on commentary. Prepelic was tapping before it really was even fully like locked. I mean, I think it was time for him to go.
He did his job. He made it longer than the 30 seconds it was supposed to be.
Yeah. So on the other side of the coin, then, I mean, I'm kind of dogging the performance a little bit, but if you look at it from the other perspective, this was a nice display of BSD's full MMA skill set.
Yeah, and that being said, is it as good as we maybe once thought? Probably not. But he's at least a decent time whenever he shows out. He's a decent main card filler.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that he, unless something dramatically changes, he might be another one of those guys that gets himself into gatekeeper territory. I hate to, I know a lot of people
say
think
this a lot about people.
Well, sometimes where a spade where it stands. I mean, because it's like I think that he's the type of dude that like you're gonna have to have a cut above skill set in order to deal with what he brings to the table if he is going to try to wrestle and he's got hands.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is just worrisome. I mean, this is somebody who has been finished by Dustin Poirier. That's not the craziest thing in the world. Dustin does have some heavy hands that he's laid on plenty of people, but you got to know going into all the fights that if he's going to go up against a striker, he will put his chin right where their fists land. I mean, it's just his game plan. His style is just, you won't do it to me, I'm going to do it to you. So it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's about it for this one. Hopefully they're going to make the fight that I think a lot of people were wanting, which was him and Gamrot, right? Wasn't that the fight that was
Gamrot's supposed to fight Ludovic Klein. That is supposedly
Ah,
gonna happen first, I think. But
okay. Well,
who
I'm with
knows?
that too, honestly. And I felt bad for Gamrot. A bunch of people turning him down for some reason. That's very strange. But
I don't feel bad for him at all. The dude's a fucking stone cold killer now. Do you see the division scared to fight him? Look at Dan Hooker's face in the last matchup. People argue that wasn't a robbery, brother. Dan Hooker probably didn't eat right for 2 weeks after that. The gamer is game. That's all I'm saying.
oh, there you go. So, I mean, well, still, somebody's got to fight him. So, if I would like to see if they if they would end up rebooking that. If it doesn't work out with Klein, then maybe that'll happen. But either way, good, solid win as expected for Benoit Saint Denis.
Hell yeah.
All right, moving on to Alexa Grasso versus Natalia Silva, or Natalie Silva, as announced by Bruce Buffer not once but twice. Thought that was
it is a hard one. I don't know why it's hard for. I think it's an American thing. Not Natalia. Well, I don't know. It's a hard one. Natalie is good for me.
Yeah, very very difficult. I understand, but yeah, this was one of those kind of fights that I didn't really like. I mean, I've got my notes or whatever, but I didn't really have too much specific things to there wasn't any standout stuff to say about the actual fight itself aside from that Silva was extremely consistent. This was one long round of success for Silva, and it just seemed very strange that Grasso went from the highest of this sport to where she was in this fight.
Okay, I think you not having a lot to say is perfect because I can say a decent amount about this.
All right.
Coming into it, I thought the odds were wonky because this is somebody who's a former champ. This is somebody who's proven it against the highest level athlete in the women's division currently still. And somebody who I would say does what Silva does better. I could be wrong, and maybe I am after what I've seen. So Alexa Grasso comes into this fight, and she does her same old game plan where she just tries to strike and she can't track people down, and she gets punched in the face. She gets kicked in the face even. And I thought that this was gonna go one way, and that Silva was gonna throw body kicks. She was gonna try to land the side kick as much as she can, and then finally Grasso was gonna be able to just get one grabbed and get her to the mat. One around was all I was asking. So when the first round goes by and Miss Silva and this was actually great game planning on her end. Don't kick to the body because she can grab my foot. No, just kick her straight in the face. Just kick her right in the fucking face. It didn't
Yep.
happen not once, but it happened maybe like 3 or 4 times. And I agree. It's hard to see a foot coming. I mean, they do come up there quick, and it is a very quick when it comes from Miss Silva here. She's one of the fastest kickers that you probably have seen in the sport. So the fact that she's getting her foot to your face and you're not seeing it, it's not surprising to me. But there was no element to switch the game plan once that started happening. She was letting Silva pick her apart on the outside. Lexa Grasso, she has a good guard, and she looks good. She looks the part for a good boxer. But when she's not getting what she's doing, she's just standing there getting punched. And it was unfortunate that I was hoping that she was eventually going to get it. Maybe she was going to be able to land a big bomb because, as you remember, she did knock down Grasso in championship rounds. So
Or
the power,
Valentina, you're saying?
yes, yeah, Shevchenko, whatever you want to say, whoever I said, she did knock her down in championship rounds. So the power can be there if she lands the shot. But this one, she was never going to land the shot. She was never going to develop the right game plan for it. And Silva, I will argue that, and I was going for Grasso, so this is some biasy coming out, but she was definitely running to secure the win at the end of the fight. That third round, she was not as active in the striking that I was hoping she would have been. Secure that win. If you're going to do it the entire time and you're going to be successful at it, you do it until the fucking bell. But I don't know.
Well, all right. I mean, I
Go ahead.
guess yet again, that's a perspective thing because I did have that Silva maintained distance really nicely throughout and landed, like we were talking about the kicks, landed some beautiful kicks and was very quick with her hands. And I think that the big note that I had for Grasso was that she was just flat in comparison. And you talk about Silva being fast with her kicks. Silva's fast, period. Like
Yeah.
she's her fast twitch movement and her active footwork was really nice and effective. Like she fights like a angry chihuahua. You know what I mean? Like she's just one of those like barking dogs kind of
True. She kind of
situations.
looks like it too. I don't know what it is.
All right, well,
She's
that
very
aside,
attractive. That's not a dog remark, but I mean, she
sure.
does give off Chihuahua vibes. I can dig
Yeah.
it.
A lot of people in the chat were commenting on her attractiveness, of course, but yeah, no, so she's like very active, and just very fast movements all over the place, like not standing in one place to be hit very often. Grasso looked flat in comparison is the big takeaway there, and she didn't adapt at all. So it's like, the style that Grasso has, where she's kind of lacking output because she can't track her down, as you said, it lets Silva walk away with this thing to an extent. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the one long round of success. It like just felt like every round was just the same thing consistently across the board. And
Yep.
like, yeah, I'd say that those kicks to the face were definitely the standout moments, but like those aside, like that's what I mean. It was just like, it was kind of just a blur of Silva's success. Like there really weren't all that many standout moments for Grasso. Like maybe once or twice she started to turn up a little bit, but it wasn't a lot. So it felt to me like another one of those fights where it was like a handshake agreement between the fighters. Like, it's like I'm going to stand here kind of flat-footed. You're going to dance around me and pick me apart. And that's just going to be okay. You have to meet the challenge that's in front of you and push past it. Alexa didn't do that, unfortunately, which is kind of crazy considering that she is a former champion.
Yeah, I do agree with you. The one long round statement does make sense. I mean, there was no game plan situation. There was no urgency on Alexa's side to like actually win the fight. I mean, she did her thing and like that's her game plan. She's a boxer. I mean, she can grapple when it gets down to it, but if she's not going to be able to get to it, she's just going to stand there. And that's unfortunate. There was one moment, and I remember you talk about moments. Like there was one moment at the end of the first round because the first round was decently close. If I'm betting for Grasso, I'm praying that it's close. And then there's one flurry at the end where Grasso charges in and they throw a bunch of hands real quick up until the bell. And I thought to myself, Grasso won that. No, she secured the round. And then you watch her walk back to the corner and she's got lumps on her fucking head and she's all busted up. And I'm like, well, fuck, she kind of got fucked up. And then they show the replay on it. And I'm like, she missed every goddamn shot. She didn't even fucking land. So like it was really frustrating that there was that little success. Like even the moment that was tailor made. You tracked her down on the cage and now you're ready to just throw bombs and just nothing fucking landed. And And to your point also with Miss Silva, they talked about it on the commentary. She could do this all fucking day. Like this is just what she's able to do. Her cardio is forever. We talk about the flyweights and bantamweights. The cardio is just sometimes built in. Most of the time it is. They can do shit really fast for a really fucking long time. And Miss Silva, Miss Natalia, she's damn good at what she does. And it is going to take somebody who's going to take her out of her game. I know we always there's somebody who's going to be able to make it a different fight than what you're expecting. This is 7 wins now. So she's going to have to come up against competition that's going to have to bring different elements if they want to. They see that they can't fight like the other people. There's 7 other people who are going to fight the losing method. They cannot do that. So they have to figure something else out. And there's going to be, it's just going to get interesting for Miss Silva at this point.
Well, I mean, she moves into the number 1 slot now off of that, doesn't she? That's kind of
Yep.
crazy to think about, and doing so with 30-27s across the board. The last question that I had about this one was, based on what we are now seeing, was Alexa Grasso a bit of a flash in the pan?
Well, if you consider that she was probably losing up until the rounds where she got the choke on Valentina, and then if you consider that she would have lost the fight that was a draw if it wasn't for a 10-8, and then she did lose the rematch. It sucks that after this, I thought to myself, I unfortunately overvalued what she was before and didn't see the quick decline, because when you see a fight like this, you can see this is not a champion. Like this is not somebody who was out here with the gold. This is just another run of the mill fighter who got beat by Silva at her own game. So that's unfortunate. You got to expect. I would hope to expect different things from championship level fighters, but this one just did not have it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see what like elements come into play in her next fight. I think I'm gonna be looking out for a fight announcement for her and see who they pair her up with, because I think that a lot of questions are starting to be answered like in real time with her now.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate because, I always liked her. I think that she's very nice, mild mannered individual. Seems like a good lady and everything, but it's all of those factors that you just laid out there do kind of tell the tale at this point, and she's going to need to have a very serious course correction if she's going to stay at the top of the game.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, before we move on to the next fight, I did want to at least mention that Vitor Belfort was entered into the Hall of Fame at this event. Kind of mixed feelings about that one. And I know that that's kind of crazy to a lot of people because I know that he is a legend of this sport. But Vitor Belfort, to me, gets into the territory of being right at the cusp of where the cutoff for considering people like legends of the sport is, if you're like going back to the golden age of the sport. Maybe I need to go back and watch Vitor Belfort fights and reacquaint myself. There's also the fact that he is a notorious juice box, which does kind of stain everything. But we've got plenty of juicers in the Hall of Fame as well. So I don't know. I've got a slight mixed feelings about it. And then also the fact that he is the dude that blinded Michael Bisping. But
So you are saying that this one is questionable, and that so I'm trying to this one for me because I didn't watch Vitor Belfort, but obviously when you're saying you didn't, there wasn't too much in the fights. Like you can see him on the highlight reel every fucking corner you go when it comes to MMA. So somebody like that, and you want to talk about Hall of Fame? I mean, it gets Anthony Smith. Is he a Hall of Famer? I mean, it's one of those things. If you're not actually like 100% sold, like, oh yeah, that's a Hall of Famer right there. I mean, it's always going to be interesting. But as you said, I mean, this is somebody that everybody knows. Like, how can you not be a Hall of Famer if everybody knows that you're a UFC fighter? Whatever you want to say.
no, and I agree with that. I think that that's why it makes sense. But like to me, it would be like at the edge of it. You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
yeah, like I'm not like, man, that's crazy that happened. I can't believe that he's entered in the Hall of Fame, whatever. Like, but it is like one of those ones that I'm like, there are other circumstances that to me like kind of muddy it just a little bit, but it's fine that he's in there. And again, I should probably go back and rewatch the highlights and get a little bit like, reacquaint myself with just why he was so amazing at the time, because it's been a long time since I've seen those older fights. Maybe that'll be my next day when I do cardio. I'll go down a Vitor Belfort rabbit hole with his classic fights. But as of right now, there's just a lot to be said about him that's somewhat negative as well. So mixed feelings, but either way, it makes sense. You're right. I mean, he is a name that is heralded in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of interesting when you're beginning, like we say this all the time, this is still the beginning process of the UFC in the grand scheme. They just passed their 35th. I've talked about that. They just passed their 35th. The NBA just passed the 75th. They got a 40-year head start. So when you're building, the Hall of Fame wing and you're doing things like that, like the people who got the sport relevant, they have to be in there. I mean, even if they weren't people that you would necessarily say are like credentialed as Hall of Fame material, it's like if they got people watching the sport, they're a trailblazer. That's Mount Rushmore stuff. It goes beyond whatever the belts are saying.
No, you're
That,
absolutely right about that.
and talking about people, Demetrius Johnson, and I actually think I just made a great point. Making people know the sport is a little better than being the champion of the sport. Like Demetrius Johnson is one of those people who was never really respected, kind of deal, and he was a long time great champion for the promotion. But then you got people like Vitor Belfort is just somebody who just gave highlights for the promotion and got people watching. I don't know. Yeah, it's
No,
kind of
I
how
agree.
you gauge it.
Yeah, I think you made a very good point there. Absolutely. So, yeah. So, okay, then there you go. So good entry to the Hall of Fame. Then, congratulations, Vitor Belfort.
And Hall of Fame entry and Hall of Fame video tributes. Just
Yeah.
going into the next fight, I'm sure we won't get a video tribute for this guy, but we'll see.
And we'll talk about that aspect of it, because I certainly have a couple of things to say about that part. But this is Jose Aldo versus Amin Zahabi, yet another one that did not predict correctly. But Jose Aldo, coming into this fight, there was a bit of controversy on this one. Jose Aldo missed the bantamweight limit by a lot. I mean, this was a bad weight miss. Amin Zahabi was asked to stop cutting, and the fight was moved up to featherweight because of the weight miss. We would come to learn that Jose Aldo basically gave up on the weight cut. So back what I was talking about, like with Bruno Silva, when I had said like there's like that checklist in my mind, I had gone through that on the watch along, and then was like, oh, well, there you go. One of the things actually did come true there. It was just that he just decided he didn't want to cut anymore.
Well, you get older and you go down a weight class. It's not really the easiest task. But hey, it is what it is. That was his choice to make. I also would like to point out early, since we're talking about the weight miss, is that Ayman Zahabi in his post-fight speech said, "I appreciate Hunter for giving me an offer that made it worth taking this fight." I was like, I obviously get that's probably what happened, but you didn't really have to say it in a way. It's like, man, I only took this because they gave me buku fucking cash. Like, but no. Okay, so going into the fight, I think this one was very, very interesting because I think in my mind, maybe I didn't articulate it well enough. Maybe I had a different opinion by the time the fight came around, but I think this went just about as what I thought it was going to be. Actually, I want to say it was a mix. I did believe Ayman Zahabi was going to be very elusive and play the outside and counter strike a lot. I did think Jose Aldo was going to walk him down and get frustrated that he wasn't able to track him down a lot. I did think also originally that there's no way Ayman Zahabi is on Jose Aldo's level. This is not somebody who can walk in here and beat one of the actual Hall of Famers of the sport, kind of deal. And that being said, I thought the first two rounds were clearly Jose Aldo. So I think that is interesting to note, because when you look at the scorecards, that is not what happened. So going into the third round, you have 3 minutes of domination by Jose Aldo. Mind you, he puts Ayman Zahabi on the mat, soccer kicks him in the face when he wants to get up, puts him on the mat. He trying to get up again. He throws another soccer kick. Dude, Jose Aldo actually wanted to win this fight so bad. And it's crazy that the way that he went out because of this judging call here. And then you have 2 minutes of Ayman Zahabi flipping the script and brutally beating Jose Aldo down with elbows and guard. And it was interesting. But then that would lead people on the internet to say that this should be a draw. And in my opinion, there was no way the third round was a 10-8, because for 3 minutes, Jose Aldo was beating the shit out of this dude. Okay. Secondly, the first two rounds clearly went to Aldo. I don't know where everybody else was watching. And then you get to the judging, and then they give it to Ayman Zahabi in Canada like it was scripted. And I'm not saying it was, but like, brother, no way could you watch that fight and give that to Zahabi. I'm serious. It makes no sense.
Well, let me break it down a little bit on my side of the coin, having done the rewatch just recently. Actually, this is one that I was able to do today, so it's only a couple hours ago that I got to rewatch this one. First round was good. Thought Aldo was more consistent. Zahabi found a little bit of success late in the round, but Aldo was bobbing and weaving his way around all of the shots pretty much. So like Zahabi was trying to throw a bunch at the end of the round, but he didn't really land very much. So Aldo took round one pretty definitively, I would say. Second round, Zahabi did better. Aldo started to slow down a bit. So, I mean, I do think that like I'd have to like really, hit the clicker to be like saying that Aldo won the round. I did give it to Zahabi though, so I had it 1-1 going into the third round. Wild third round. Aldo lays everything on the line. And then completely gasses. Like, I mean, like it was kind of crazy the wall that he hit, because it was like
the look up at the clock with 3 minutes left, dude. He
bro.
was in hell, because it was funny too, because I remember watching it and I'm like, man, he's looking at that clock hard, like he's squinting to see what time it is. And then in the Discord, North is like, I thought he was like trying to meme him, like he's looking at the clock for so long, punches are like coming, and he's like dude, it
him
was
looking at the clock after the amount of time that had elapsed, and then the realization that there was so much left really was pretty comical in the moment, because it really was like, oh shit, there's a lot more.
yeah.
And there was a ton more. There was like over 3 minutes left. So but yeah, so he completely gasses. He's on his back. And even though he almost got Zahabi out of there, Zahabi musters enough to come back with some heat. That's when the elbows came into play, but the elbows weren't really, I mean, like he was landing, but it wasn't like it was consistent. Bam, 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 bam. Like Aldo was still moving a decent amount on the ground. So like, I don't know. I felt like I mean, 29-28 across the board for Zahabi is wild. This definitely should have at least been a split decision. Somebody should have been more kind to Aldo. I mean, I would have had this as a draw and not been mad at it if you 10-10'd the third round, because if you really split it down the middle, Aldo had all of the success in the first half of the round. Zahabi had all of the success in the second half of the round. 10-10s are very rare, but I think that this might be a case for it. Either which way, like I was not terribly upset by the decision. I was surprised by the decision. After seeing everything, I hear what you're saying. I guess it was just a little bit of a different perspective on it. But it was, I could like it could have gone either way, and I think that Aldo did enough that it probably should have gone his way.
I think the judging going this way screwed Aldo, and then screwed the fans also, because this is a fight where Zahabi would rightfully lose, but the fact that he actually got to prove that he has the fighter spirit, that he's willing to go out there and take whatever and end up on top at the end of the day. That was supposed to be the outcome. Is Aldo wins, okay, fine, but Ayman Zahabi actually is a dog. Like we should actually put a little respect on his name. But the fact that he walks away with a robbery here, it one is gonna give false hope for Zahabi. It's like, man, I just beat Aldo. Like I beat him at his own game. I almost finished him late. It's like not necessarily what I would say was the situation, but if you would have taken a loss here, you could still have some reevaluation without making it seem like you're just still the guy on top. Because you got to remember, Ayman Zahabi is on a very big win streak, and he's been having a lot of selective people that he's trying to make his way with and you actually see in his post-fight speech, fucking called out Cheeto Vera. Brother, quit calling out these old punching bags. Damn it. Like, so
He's an old guy himself, though,
He is true. But I will say this was the fight where we were supposed to have the easy outcome for Aldo. He continues on being the genetic freak that he is, with some legs still left in the game. And Zahabi was supposed to have his stock raised based on the performance that he was able to weather. The fact that it went this way and we got to see a Jose Aldo retirement, sucks because we didn't get the Jose Aldo retirement that we should have got. Like he obviously was on his way out, but like he won the fight. This wasn't the one that was supposed to be his retirement. He would if he would have went in next fight and got mopped, it's like, all right, fuck it, hang up the gloves. But the fact you go in here and you have a great performance and only the judges think that you lost, like I can see why people are confused on, but like what can you do? Yeah, he obviously couldn't make the weight anymore. His face was fucking destroyed after this one. Whatever.
Well, I certainly can agree with you that this is an unfortunate way for Aldo to retire. And then a lot of people were making a lot of noise about Aldo not getting a video package and a proper send off. Shout out to ITP MMA. He just did a video about, the later run of Aldo, this second stint in the organization. Made a couple of good points in there. One that I certainly agreed with is that I think that the organization was not happy that he left the first time. This is his second run in the organization after saying he had retired. He went to go do boxing for a little while, came back. They don't like that. We've seen that.
Look at Henry Cejudo.
I was just going to say Henry Cejudo. Exactly. I mean, like Henry was a little bit more vocal about things. So I think that Henry really screwed himself hard with his, but I think that, the organization's ruthless, bro. We know this. I mean, this is known information. Like you have to be a UFC loyalist to stay in good graces with the UFC. Going over to other organizations to try your luck in other sports and this kind of stuff, unless it is something that the UFC specifically has their beaks getting wet with, they're going to be upset about it. So I think that that's probably what the case was here. I think that that's also to an extent. Now, I mean, ITP went into some more speculation about why Aldo was getting like the quality level of the fighters that he was getting and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if I necessarily agreed to that extent because he was like, oh, Aldo's been getting all these sort of like mid-level fighters and, they weren't really like fan-friendly fights, like, kind of screwing the fans out of like Aldo fights because of the people he was paired with. That's, I guess, debatable to me, but I do think that as far as like the send-off goes, yeah, they probably were like, you had your shot to get a retirement package when you retired the first time, bro. You missed your shot.
It's one of those things where it's like you should just have this saved on like a USB, right? It's like auto retirement video. It's like I don't know. That's just the way that I would think about it.
Well, I think that they intentionally didn't do it though, because I thought that too. I thought maybe they just didn't know that he was going to retire. But at the same time, I mean, I think that even if they had known, I think it would have been like, well, we appreciate you. You're in the Hall of Fame, so obviously we respect you. But that's thanks for everything.
I also want to know one last funny thing. The translator, is it Fabio? Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fabiano.
Fabiano, excuse me. Whenever there's somebody who I mean, Jose Aldo was going to get all the time in the world to talk on the mic, I guess. So when he had his little final speech, he talked for minutes, and Fabiano is just supposed to just remember whole dialogue, paragraphs, like, and it's funny because like in my mind, he's just going to be like, all right, appreciate you guys. Like, yep, that was it. Like, and Aldo just said like, his whole fucking heart out. It's like, but can you really expect him to say the entire thing verbatim? Like, like I don't know. It's just funny. Like, man, they really don't be giving him an easy job. Like,
it's true, and that's why he's one of the best in the biz. So shout out to Fabiano.
True.
Great head of hair on top of it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, look, if Aldo does stick to the retirement, which it sounds like he's going to this time, he said the nail in the coffin sentence when he said, my heart just wasn't in it anymore. And when he was talking about the weight cut, saying, I told myself you don't have to do this anymore. That, that's really where the end of the line is. I think, if it's already in your mind and in your heart, then this should probably be the retirement. So if it does stick, which it probably will, thanks for everything, champ. I mean, Jose Aldo, legend of this sport, and it has been great to watch him fight.
Hell yeah.
All right. Co-main event of this thing was Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot. Here's one we actually did get right, happily enough to say. Valentina the Crusher. Talk about a nice way to start this thing when she had Manon Fiorot's nose broken in round 1. I mean, that, Manon is a tough chick to be able to fight 4.5 rounds with a broken nose.
I think this fight was very good, and they did come out the way that I thought it was going to be. Now, obviously, Valentina was. I thought she was going to get a finish. She didn't get. She didn't even go for the maneuvers that I thought she was going to get a finish via head kick and or the crucifix at the beginning of the first round. Actually, she did get her down, and she was kind of inside control. I was like, here we go. She's given the foundation. Next round, when she gets her down, the arm's going to get trapped, and we're just going to rain elbows. But she didn't go back to it. Unfortunately, I will say that Shevchenko has developed this new style, and I don't know if I love it or hate it. I'll wait for your opinion. She doesn't run. She does not, in a sense, she doesn't back up. She does. She's not evasive. She's not a, but she does. She just stands her ground, and it is not the most exciting thing to see where she's just flat-footed, just ready to counter whatever's going to come at her, but it is very effective. Now, I will say early on, that is not something that I think will work against Wei Li, but we'll get into that here in a little. So it was unfortunate to see that she was just flat-footed standing there for a lot of it because she had Manon right where she wanted her. She was just waiting for Manon to just throw so she can counter, and she wasn't going to back up from it. She wasn't going to let Manon use her size to impose threat. And I thought it was a great performance. It was pretty close. If you want to say it was 2-2 going into the fifth, you certainly can. I don't want to believe that because after a certain point, I was screaming at the TV that you cannot award thigh and leg punches and thigh knees as value on the scorecard. There's no way that what Manon is doing in the clinch when she's punching her in the thigh, she's kneeing her in the thigh, that is not going to count up against what Shevchenko was doing in the open, like in the open striking. And I'm so blessed that it didn't, because if you're somebody who takes into account like, well, she is landing points, I mean, that is a point that she's landing, it does rack up the tally, then yeah, Manon probably did win this one. But I don't believe that's how the scoring should have went, and it didn't, evidently. It was close, but Shevchenko did the correct things in a mixed martial arts bout that I want to see. I don't want to see the thigh punches. Literally punching the thigh. Okay, kneeing to the thigh. Okay, sure. Punching the thigh is ridiculous. I'm honestly even for getting rid of the thigh and knee punches and knees, because until I see a thigh TKO, I like there's just no point for you even to throw it. It's not, it doesn't get anybody off balance. It doesn't get them out of position. I've yet to see somebody throw a thigh knee when they lift their leg and then sweep, like, there's no extra to it. It's just lay my chest on their back and throw knees to their thigh, and it's very fucking infuriating. And the fact that Manon had to rely on that game plan should have let you know she knows she's losing, she's not able to implement what she's good at, and she's just relying on being bailed out. And I'm glad the judging was right.
Yeah, well, I think that you answered your own, not question, but you kind of in a roundabout way circled back to the answer there, which is like that. Yeah, I think that Manon was having to scramble a little bit to answer what Valentina was doing a lot of the time, which was great for Valentina. I think that you're talking about her being flat. I mean, I think that speaks volumes against the quote unquote weight bully, if you want to believe that, in Manon Fiorot. She's not going to let her use that weight to her advantage. She's out there saying, bring whatever you got. I don't, throw it all at me. Like I'll figure out something for it. And she certainly did. So yeah, I think that Valentina is like why she's so GOAT status is because it's game planning for her a lot of time. Like I don't think that, could you say, that might not work against Zhang Weilei. She probably wouldn't try it against Zhang Weilei. I think that the game plan would be a lot different because she's such a student of the game that she's game planning for every fight differently and actually utilizing the game plans effectively. So I think that it was the right plan for the right fight, and she definitely had success with it. Like you said too, though, a much closer fight than one might expect. I mean, on both sides, I guess you could say, because Manon was the favorite in this fight, but yeah, Valentina takes the first round. Manon does have some decent success in rounds 2 and 3. I gave those two to her, but then the GOAT status really shines through in rounds 4 and 5, dropping Manon in the fourth. What a legend for that. And then one other thing that I thought was great, and another just veteran status. You talked about Brad Tavares going to the leg of Chris Weidman, right? And how that was like, he was the only guy that like actually went and took it to the one vulnerable thing that for a fact is vulnerable, right? Valentina Shevchenko breaks her nose in the first round, or at least, fractured, whatever. She significantly affected her nose in that first round, and then continues to wisely pepper that nose with as many shots as possible. Valentina was going out of her way to get that nose as many times as she could. Like, there was times in the clinch where she was going for the high knee to the face to hit the nose. I was like, that's a cut above. Like, it's like one of those things that it's like kind of goofy to talk about, like, oh, yeah, she just kept going back to that one thing, but it's like, that's one of those things that sets you apart. So I thought that Valentina fought a very smart fight throughout all of this. I think that she realized the type of opponent that Manon was and the attributes that she brought to the table and countered them all very effectively. I was really, really happy with this performance.
This performance, or the way that Valentina the way that she was able to win this matchup, you would have thought that she was talking like Bilal was talking before in the promos and stuff. We'll get to it in a second. But like Valentina actually showcased like this is just your average skill set that I'm facing. They've never faced something like me. I will show you that. And she actually did show that why she's the champ. It was close, but championship rounds are why shit matters, you know?
For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that this was a great showcase of everything that Valentina brings to the table and why she should be always heralded as, if not the best. If you consider Amanda Nunes to be the best of all time there, then she's certainly a very, very close second. The one other thing I wanted to ask you about, though, is what was your thoughts on the illegal knee in the second round that apparently was blocked, so it was not illegal?
Yeah, the fact that she went for that, I do respect the killer instinct. I do respect that. She was willing to try to, and same with Aldo on the soccer kick. Like, bro, that was, why would you even do that? Like, that's just wild to
He
think
did get
about.
lucky with that. There, yeah, I mean, well, not really now with the new unified rules, because hands wouldn't have mattered anyway. But still, it's
That's like the most in between down and up I've seen. So the fact that he was confident that that soccer kick was legal was
yeah. But if
crazy.
his knees weren't down was the issue. But I mean, he definitely was like in the process of getting up, so it was close. It was well
Yeah,
timed.
yeah. Well timed. That was crazy. Anyway, so yeah, the knee here was pretty nuts, and it was like not even close. Like Shevchenko was like on her butt. Like it was really really
Oh,
crazy. And
if
yeah,
that had connected, it would have absolutely been. I mean, that should have been a point deduction. I mean, they're saying that because her hands were up, it was blocked, so the block negates it. But I mean, that's just, to me, the fact that she went for it was pretty
That's
crazy. I like,
that's just enabling her to be like, "Okay, well, I can do it again if nobody's gonna say shit. If we're gonna give justification, well, she just better fucking block it again next time I throw it," you know? Like,
I guess that's a fair way to look at it. But yeah, I thought it was slightly dirty to even go for that. But in the moment, it is one of those deals where it is tough to be, like you said, it's, she's adrenaline's going, she's, mind racing a mile a minute kind of thing. But got to be more aware than that, because that could have easily. I mean, like, if that, imagine a bizarro world scenario where that knee lands and Valentina says she can't continue. That could have been a disqualification right there.
mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah, too bad she didn't need it, you know? She just went in here and played the game, took what was given to her. She was gonna take the illegal strikes, and she was ready to win her belt, That's all you need to know.
hell yeah, retains that belt once again.
I would
Another,
also like to
yeah,
know
sure,
before we
sure,
move on,
yeah.
is that Manon Farrell in her little Twitter rambles, I'm most likely sure this is what she said. She said, "If I lose to Valentina, I'll retire," right then and there. Valentina went ahead and said, "Don't retire." So there you go. There's a little note.
Nice sportsmanship on top of everything. How about
Yeah.
that? All right. Well, a champion that did not retain his belt in this main event of the evening was Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena, your new champion. And Chase, I know you got a lot to say about this one, so why don't you take it away?
Well, to start, so throughout the card, because we had a lot of finishes, we got a lot of promotional video for the main event and for a lot of different fights. Most notably, the Bilal Muhammad promotion that would come along and it would have him spewing words that would make you think that he's the greatest of all time. As of right now, solidified, no doubt about it, no question, nobody's ever coming close. That was a very big red flag because while DC was starting to, on the weigh-in show, they're like, Bilal's always been talking like this. It's just now he's got a platform that you guys hear it. It's like, if he's always been talking like this, I can see why nobody fucking likes him. What are you talking? Like, how can anybody be curious? Like, he talks like he's the fucking god of gods. And like, yeah, as of the time goes on, he did rack up a win streak, and you question a lot of the wins. It's like, are these the caliber of people? You know, Leon, whatever you want to say, didn't fucking perform. It passed his bedtime, whatever. Anything like that, you can have many asterisks. But then when you come into a performance like this, and he's talking like he's saying shit like, you know, I've seen Jack plenty of times. He's never seen anything like me. This is just another performance where you guys are going to see how good I am, why I'm the best, blah, 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 blah. Then you get into this matchup. You come in, Jack Della Maddalena walks in to the ACDC. I want to make note that he was aura farming his ass off, because if you notice, I remember thinking, like, as the thing's watching, I'm like, holy shit, how far is he walking to the arena? Like, he was in the parking lot, I'm telling you, because he walked around long enough for the fucking TNT chorus to hit for him to walk out on the crowd. So he was definitely farming there, but it was definitely nice. And I brought it up earlier. You wanted to talk about Charles Radke looking a little drained. I was worried when Jack Della walked out. He looked very angular. Like, his face was still sunken. Like, you could still see the cheekbones, and he just didn't look like one I expected for a champion to look. But hey, it doesn't always have to look the best. We'll get into it. This one, it was just concerning. I thought, like, he just doesn't look like he's as full as I once. Like, when he fought Kevin Holland, I had no question. Like, he looked like he was just ready to go. This one right here just looked interesting to know. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I was just going to agree with you a little bit on that for sure. And then just note that, you know, I always take a point away from anyone who walks out to ACDC, because everybody does. But in this case, ACDC is an Australian band. I think that I'll make an exception in the case of the new champ.
Yeah, I actually agree. It's normally too cliche for me to get behind, but the fact that you just gave me some input and context that it is an Australian band, I dig it.
ACDC, Red Hot Chili Peppers, guys, just there's so much more music out there. You can pick any song. Why people come out to the Red Hot Chili Peppers all the time? Just pick something else, for Christ's sake. Make it interesting. But
Yeah.
Jack Della, I say I'll give him the pass.
Yeah, so coming into this fight, the weight cut was worrisome for me. I thought Jack didn't look like he had the easiest time. Bilal came into this fight, walked out confident as ever, which, give him credit, for somebody who's hated on for most of his career, having confidence and not looking down upon yourself, you know, shout out to him. He was able to overcome that adversity.
He was dancing.
Yeah, looking a little too loose for somebody who was not going to have the performance of his life, and that's what is key. I mean, you come in here, and I don't know. I want to say, because I don't want to believe this is what happened when Bruce Buffer is introducing Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad's looking at him like giving him the eyebrows, like, you know what's about to happen, like, you know this dude. And like, I want to believe that's not what I was witnessing, but you know, Bilal's eyebrows were going up, and he's looking at Bruce like, you know it, dude. Come on, give it, you know, introduce me, the fucking king. And then he comes out here and has probably the worst performance that I've seen him at. Now to credit, he did go 5 rounds and did not get finished by some killer. But this for Bilal Muhammad, if you want to credit his striking for being a masterclass in this one, I'm going to disagree, because Jack was winning all of the striking exchanges. Jack's head movement was on fucking point. Bilal was in the state of not being able to enact his game plan. And then when he did, Jack Della made it just insignificant. It was actually pretty interesting how badly of a beat. Like, I even said this is almost as easy of a walkthrough that like Strickland and Izzy was. Like, this was very easy. Jack Della walked in, owned the show. In my opinion, the judging is very, very wrong. I mean, 46-49 is about as close as I would say it is, but this was a beautiful performance for somebody to just walk in and do, especially because Jack Della, and credit to his game plan, he is very good at what he does, but he didn't show it off all in the first couple rounds. When the fight started, he was very, very good, but he wasn't ripping the body. He wasn't extending combinations longer. He was just out there setting the tone. And then when round 3 and 4 came, you see him start ripping bodies, extending the combinations, following up a little more. He was on the back foot for the later rounds of this one. Unfortunately, he was a little tired after beating Bilal's ass for 3 rounds. So round 4 and 5, 4, it looked like he took, maybe it was 3, 4, it looked like he took off, is what I'm going to say. I remember 4, it looked like Jack took off. Give it to Bilal, sure. 5th round, Jack came out, stole the show again. I think what is also key and why Jack stole the show and Bilal lost all of it. One, Bilal was fighting from behind the entire time. Jack had all the momentum. So you can't just have a moment. You got to flip the momentum. You got to have that fighter on the back foot. You've got to steal the round at that point. You're not just fighting from a neutral position after you've already lost 1 or 2. It's like you got to do something that actually makes you win this fucking round. Like you got to show out. But I just don't think Bilal was ever having those moments. Jack was dicing him up, getting up from all the most compromising positions that you could have with Bilal on top of you. And I thought this was a beautiful performance. I also would like to say, we talk about new age fighters and what they're able to do. Bilal Muhammad's kind of like an older, not older school, but like in an era that's past kind of deal. Because Jack Della's coming out here, and it's same with Diego Lopez. I think is a good comparison. They have the tools everywhere, but they want to box with you, and they can knock your head off if they really need to. I mean, going 5 rounds with Volk and it being close up until the 5th, strictly on boxing. Same with Jack Della. Came in here and did nothing else but try to box the bloody head off him, and I thought that was absolutely amazing from Jack. So.
All right. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Lot to unpack there. I think that your Bilal haterism is showing.
I'm glad though, because look how it ended up.
See, well, I mean, but I think that look, Jack wins the fight. I'm not mad about that element of it. In the moment on the watch along, I think I was a little bit more confused about it than after the rewatch. I think the rewatch put this into a lot more perspective for me because I was a little all over the place with my assessment in the moment, but the rewatch helped clarify everything for me, clear everything up. So Bilal, he's a guy that not a lot of people like. We know this. This is just it is what it is. But I think that there are people who are letting that cloud their judgment of his performance in this fight a little bit more than it needs to be. I think that this was a closer fight than a lot of people are giving it credit for, and I'll tell you why. I think that Jack definitely is a great boxer, and the power is the big difference. Volume was Bilal. Striking numbers, and I mean, and again, I talked about how I think the striking numbers are not always accurate, and I'd have to go back and do the clicker with some of these. This might be one as well, but volume was there for Bilal by choice. This, people are talking about why Bilal is so boring as a fighter, why they don't like him, aside from outside of the cage stuff. In cage, they're saying, oh, he's a boring fighter. Well, he made a conscious decision to stand with Jack Della in this one. He was trying to show off that Canelo boxing that he talks about. Now, I think that was a poor strategy on his part with this. I think that was
ego.
His big, yeah, I absolutely do think it was ego. I think you're absolutely correct. I think that he had a point to prove in striking with Jack Della, and it cost him dearly.
And that's exactly why you shouldn't like him, is he just thought that because he's got the belt, I just walk into any matchup and I play their game and I beat them at it. And
but you got to have that confidence, though. I mean, like, I'm okay with that level.
When you're somebody who doesn't have the fucking resume to back up somebody who can stand with Jack Della. Granted, you did for 5 rounds, and I actually take points away from Jack for not being able to finish it, considering Bilal was standing with him for all of it. But I don't know, guys. I mean, this was definitely you got your head too far up your own ass.
Well, fair. I mean, okay. I guess maybe there might be a little delusion element to it, perhaps.
Like if Ilio came in here and he was doing, it's like okay, he's.
Well, right, fair, but you yourself had even said on the last episode that we don't even know the full extent of how great Jack even is yet. You know what I mean? Like that, like so.
Seems pretty damn good to me.
I mean, now we know. We certainly do know now. But I mean, like, but again, I think that you're discounting a lot of like the decent striking that Bilal did have in this fight. I thought that there were some good stuff being landed there. The problem is that the difference in the power was very noticeable. That's because I think that's really what's like shading everybody's vision around this, is that Jack, when he landed, it was a significant strike. You talk about significant strikes just versus strikes overall. Bilal was landing in volume, but the reaction wasn't there. Like, maybe Jack is just really good at taking a shot, but like Bilal certainly did put hands on Jack Della. I mean, he had the swollen eye too. He had the bumped up face too. He was landing and he was kicking a good amount as well. Now he intentionally was doing that. He was not, because people are saying, oh, Jack negated all of the takedown attempts. Yeah, he definitely did do that. But Bilal was intentionally not shooting a hell of a lot. And again, I think that bit him in the ass. But really, I mean, like for me, I switched a couple of my opinions about the round by round. But going through it round by round, just very briefly here, I thought round one was pretty even. I thought that it was a slight edge to Jack after the rewatch, but it was an even round. It was a bit of a feel out round, I would say. I mean, both of them were throwing, but it wasn't like super intense at that point. Round two, I gave pretty solidly to Jack. 3 and 4, I thought went to Bilal. I thought that he did pretty good work in those rounds, and Jack was starting to fade just a little bit. I will give him credit for the cardio that he has, because he did conserve enough to make round 5, his. And he came back, he even said that he was like, oh, I think I held back a little bit too much, saving for round 5.
Did you see the coach's corner? You are not fucking tired.
Yeah.
You are not fucking tired.
I thought his cornering was great, actually,
Yeah.
by the way. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I thought that his corner, that team that he has, because he's not a city kickboxing guy, right? He's I forgot what the name of his gym is, but yeah, he's got his own team. I think his brother is one of his corner men or whatever as well.
Scrappy MMA.
Yes, Scrappy, exactly. Yeah, I really, I mean, I can't vouch for the rest of their team or any of that kind of stuff, but in this fight, the way that I heard the cornering, I was like, I really liked the way that they were coaching him through. I thought that all of the strategizing was pretty good. Maybe a little bit overconfident at times, because they were saying like, you're winning every round like this and that. And maybe if they were you, then yeah, I say from your perspective, maybe that was okay.
In my opinion, at the time, I mean, this is as close as a dog walking as it was. I mean, the coaching is not wrong, in my opinion. It's like, this is yours for the taking. Just one more round. You are not tired. You are the champion. Go out here and do it. Like that's going into the 5th round. I mean, I'm talking about having the confidence, and it's a downfall for Bilal, but that's because you're talking before the shit is, after going into the 5th round. Okay, have the confidence that this is yours. Like, I've done it, but don't have the confidence like you're a jackass before you've even seen what the dude can do. So
sure, fair, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I see you, David Burns, in the chat. He's on fire over here, said wanting to talk about the damage and that this was the best striking of Bilal's career. I mean, I think that this is a good point, saying that Bilal actually did finally what everybody had been asking him to do for so long: come out here and put on the best striking that you can. And Jack was able to make it his fight even with that. And then to the point about the damage, I mean, you saw those images that came out after the fact. Bilal's lip, split pretty badly. I mean, like, the damage in the moment didn't seem as bad as it actually was, like, when you look at it, like, in the pictures, because he definitely did get worked over pretty badly. So obviously, Jack, I was not giving him enough credit, and I will thoroughly admit that. But I think what I'm trying to get at with this whole assessment here is that this win for Jack does not bother me after the rewatch. Like, he proved himself with this performance in a way that I don't think that I had seen him prove himself before. So I'm glad for that. But I do want to give Bilal the credit that he deserves for what he did in this fight, because he fought out of the element that he normally fights in, and I thought had some pretty decent success with that style. I know you're not agreeing with that, but
so you're giving him credit for deciding to lose. Like, I mean, you even said, like, I mean,
but he didn't think so. He thought he was. You gotta have
he raised
that
his hands at the end of the fight, knowing damn well you lost 3 of those convincingly. That's just my opinion. But
well, I mean, when I saw that somebody had given him all like 4 rounds, I was
fucking
like,
Henry Cejudo. Yes. Oh my gosh. He said Bilal was up 3-0 at the time.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I thought that Bilal, like, again, in the moment, I had thought that he took the first 2, like when I was watching it in like the watch along. So like I had to like go back and like recalibrate. I think a part of why I was like kind of unsure about things was because I was just not expecting the fight that Bilal brought. So I think I maybe had to recalibrate a little bit, knowing what I was looking at thereafter. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I don't think that the confidence that Bilal has was a problem, because you have to be that confident in order to be a champion in the first place. Plus, he had been undefeated for so long that it's like, I think that he earned that level of confidence. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't discount what he did to get to the belt. There was a tweet that I had seen recently as well that illustrated that in a good way, that they said that Bilal is like one of the last dudes who did it without any without any external factors. Nobody likes him. He's got very, very few fans. He had to fight and win all of those times in order to actually do it. There's no hot shotting, no regional bias, no nothing. Bilal, he earned that confidence based on his efforts alone coming into that fight. Was it a little bit misplaced in hindsight? Perhaps, but it doesn't bother me. And also, I still think that he did pretty damn well under the circumstances with the boxer that we now know Jack to be.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. I would also like to throw in the last part of this main event. That the last part of the event was understanding what is coming next. And shout out to JDM for jumping right on the horse, getting on the phone and asking. Actually, I saw the clip. And that's why I figured. That's why I had the idea that Dana wasn't there, because Jack was on the phone with Dana after, and he was like, so is Islam next? And that evidently is going to be what is the next matchup. Dana is all on board for it. Islam doesn't seem to care that Bilal Muhammad lost his belt, because as soon as the hand was raised for Jack, he immediately went to Twitter and said, "Double champ status, I'm coming." So I don't know. I mean, that is next. So
yeah, and that's obviously there was a whole lot of conversation surrounding Islam and Ilya, and if that was going to happen. Obviously, that's not now. Islam is not vacating his belt, he said as well. So I mean that adds another element to all of this. Didgeridoo Dave, I saw you talking about like the religious aspect of things in the chat. That them not wanting to fight each other for those reasons is something that's a little bit off-putting. I would agree with that. I'm going to get into that in a different, like a video. I think I don't want to go too deep into that right here, right now. But there was a lot of uncertainty as to what the future would be. That now is a little bit of more clarity if that's going to be the fight. Jack said he's down for that fight. So I think that we'll just have to see how good Jack really is now.
Hell yeah. I agree.
So overall, new champion, and I'm not mad at it. Congratulations to Jack Della Maddalena, another championship belt coming back to the fine country of Australia. And that closes out UFC 315. So after talking about it, Chase, what are your overall final thoughts on this card?
These are the cards that make me be okay with living. This is a good one. I liked it.
There you go. Even if not every prediction came out correct, it was still a fun, entertaining one. I had a good time with this one as well.
Hell yeah. No, this was definitely fun.
Yeah. And even in spite of it being in Montreal, Canada.
Right.
All right.
No foot stomps. I know that took away a lot from the performances. Everybody was really excited to come into Canada and stomp the shit out of everybody's foot. But the fact we couldn't get that is really depressing. So,
and maybe that's what Bilal says next. Imagine what could have been different if I could have just stomped his feet.
I mean, he is the type of person that would use that as a tactic to win fights. So I agree with you.
All right. Fair enough. Hey, Festus Clamrod, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Appreciate seeing you in the chat too. So you want to take a look at this coming card here?
We can take a quick look at it. There's not too much that I think I want to talk about, to be honest, but we will go into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can definitely at least talk about the main event here. Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. Spider-Man getting a big test here in Gilbert Burns, but really, is it that big of a test in the Gilbert Burns that we have now?
No, it's definitely not. In hindsight, you will sit here years down the line, we will say that Hamzat and Gilbert Burns is where Gilbert Burns peaked out. And like that was going to be the last evidence that Gilbert had, like being a real killer in the division kind of deal, or somebody that you could at least have on your radar. Michael Morales, I mean, 17-0. It does have a big target on you because you have Gilbert Burns, he's able to do a lot of different things. So he can give you a lot of different looks. Hopefully we get to the point where we see what Michael Morales is made of in a lot of different aspects. Gilbert Burns is that type of person who could offer that. But will Gilbert Burns not just get knocked out in the first round? I don't know.
I mean, at this point, because I was going to mention, of course, the meta that is going around. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Undefeated fighters have been losing their O's left and right. So this has been a bad year for undefeated fighters. This matchup, I think, is not going to be one of those cases.
Mhm.
Michael Morales has proven to me, at least based on his prior performances, that he is one of those dudes that, like, the cream rises to the top kind of thing. That's what we've been seeing with him. He's cut from a different cloth. He's built differently than some of these other guys that have lost their O's. A lot of the O losses for undefeated fighters have been earlier on in their career. Morales has been here. He's been doing the damn thing already. He's been showing that he is that guy, at least in what we've seen so far. Gilbert Burns has been on the backslide for quite some time. I would have thought that it would have been okay if he had retired after the Jack fight. Honestly, that would have been an acceptable way to go out. I mean, it wouldn't have been the greatest way to go out, but it would have been an acceptable time for it to happen. But he is deciding to stick around, and this is a very tough matchup for him. I just don't see it in the Gilbert of now. I think podcasting is probably more where he's going to be suited.
He is pretty funny, so I'll give him that.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything to watch out for in this fight? I don't know. I mean, I guess we're going to see Morales' wrestling tested.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody has always been saying that Gilbert Burns has like fearsome grappling for the division. So maybe we'll get to see something like that. But people have been saying that for the last couple of fights, and we haven't seen it. So Michael Morales probably wins this.
Yeah, most definitely. Shout out to Musical MMA. We're yapping about the upcoming fight night.
And Noodle MMA doesn't look anything like me, brother.
That's right. Couldn't be that handsome. Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig as the co-main event. Paul Craig coming off of an embarrassing fight, not just on his side, but just an overall embarrassing fight with him and Bo Nickel going up against Rodolfo Bellato. What are you thinking here?
I think Paul Craig is the type of dude who does want a war. Bo Nickel was not the dude who was able to give him one. Bellato is a dude who will go in there and strike, though, and he's this is the guy. He almost got finished by Ihor Potieria, which at the time would have changed the trajectory of this dude's fucking. He almost got finished by Ihor, came back and finished him late. The ref didn't stop it for Ihor, but then stopped it for Bellato. So take that as you will. Bellato is not that great if Ihor Potieria can jump up 2 weight classes and come fight you on short notice and almost finish you. But Paul Craig is harmless, so we'll see.
Well, he's not harmless on the ground necessarily. It's just a matter of if he's actually going to try to make that happen, which it seems, I mean, why he didn't try to initiate with Bo, I guess makes some semblance of sense at the time. Bo, obviously a very credentialed wrestler, but Bellato himself, I believe, is a black belt. So, I mean, there might be some challenges on the ground for him as well. This could be a pretty bad matchup for Paul Craig, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping he gets finished.
Yeah, and then I mean, Paul Craig is he's got to be teetering on the edge there. I mean, he's probably not going to get cut off of this fight if he loses, but I think that maybe one more fight thereafter, if he doesn't win, he's got to be in that area of the conversation at this point. I mean, he is a notable Scottish fighter, and Scotland does not have a large representation in the sport currently, so perhaps there's some element of them wanting that, and keeping him around. But I mean, it's just been too much wonkiness with Paul Craig when he was on the surge a while ago. I mean, it is a while ago now, but he's not been living up to what I think a lot of people had hoped for him, and it's going to eventually catch up to him.
100%. It already has caught up to him a couple different times, but
right. Well, and you're seeing you're seeing what the aftermath there will be if it continues to go in that direction for sure.
100%.
This fight I like a lot. Sadiq Youssef coming back against Myron Santos. Santos, who did not impress me a lot in his last fight, versus Sadiq Youssef, who has been impressive in a couple of his fights. Not as recently, but he's hit a bit of a skid. I think that this is a great gauge of abilities here for Santos, and to see if Sadiq Youssef, is somebody who this is like a fight that Sadiq Youssef should definitely win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Myron coming off the performance that necessarily wasn't awesome. Sadiq Youssef has always been somebody who has impressed me with his performances. I know Diego Lopez flatlined him, but at the time, like, you don't understand how earth-shattering that was. That was the moment that we actually knew Diego had gunpowder for hands. And Diego had finishes before, but nothing like somebody who's been through war. Sadiq Youssef with Edson Barbosa is one of the craziest fights that you'll ever see. And the fact that Diego goes in and just flatlines a guy like that. I mean, Super Sadiq is not a slouch. So the fact that Myron Santos coming off of a performance that wasn't impressive enough to be, you know, world ending, this is a pretty big jump. And it's actually a lightweight too. I just noticed that. So Myron Santos will be going up. They're both going up a class, I guess. That's interesting. Yeah, these are featherweights.
Yeah. Well, that is interesting. Then I wonder what the reasoning is for that. But yeah, no, I mean, Sadiq Youssef is a dude who has impressed me a lot in previous fights. Diego Lopez aside, of course. I think that Santos, this seems like a crazy high jump. You're saying this is a big test for him. This seems like a disproportionate jump in competition.
Yes.
So
especially after you skate by.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, because he's coming off of the Ultimate Fighter, and he did do very well on that show and against the Ultimate Fighter level contenders, but that's a whole different ball game compared to someone like Youssef, who's been around for a while and has seen a lot more. So yeah, I think that having Youssef as a plus 110 on this book, Santos is a minus 130. I think that you should really jump on Youssef early if you want to get that plus money.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to tighten up. It'll be even for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. All right, moving on down the line here. Dustin Stoltzfus back again against Nursultan Ruziboyev. I like this one too, actually. I mean, Stoltzfus is a dude who has kind of like surprised me in the past with like some of his performances. He's spotty, I would say.
Marc Andre.
Yeah, exactly. Gets a nice knockout over Marc Andre. I think he was coming off of a loss before that, I believe. Might have even been on a losing streak for a little minute there.
Yes, he got knocked out by Bruno Ferreira.
Yeah, so I mean, so kind of checkered there. And then Ruziboyev, a dude who is, he's a big, beefy, tough dude, but also has lost too. So, yeah, I think this is good matchmaking on this one.
I agree.
Much more even matchmaking. Well, who you taking?
I'll probably take Ruziboyev. This has been our boy, in the Discord. We've been riding with him for a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and say that we know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, fair enough on that. And before I let it get away from me, shout out to North. That's the
homie.
Oh
yeah. All right.
Juicy J, Julian Erosa versus Melzikael Costa. Said the name right. Go me. What are you thinking?
I think Juicy J has always been overrated. Could be wrong, but Melly, again, I've said it before, I've said it again. This is a dude who's actually having to grind for his spot. I mean, this is somebody where if he was anybody else who was more popular after the first couple submission victories, he's on the radar. But like, this is still somebody who's just sliding by and nobody's really taking notice. Juicy J comes out here, finishes Darren Elkins, and I mean, listen, I'm not too impressed by it, but Melly is not one of those dudes that's going to let that happen. The most recent losses that he has are against really good people like, Steve Garcia. And there's another one that was not too bad, but Melly, again, these are one of these dudes that I've just been riding with for a while. I see something. I don't see the full package per se with Costa, but he's still young. He's still developing. And against Julian Erosa, whatever he has is good enough for Julian Erosa.
That's going to be, I think, the big deciding factor here is if it is enough for Julian Erosa. Because what my thing is that Erosa is very touchable, and when he gets hit, he goes down. Mm-hmm. So is Costa going to be able to muster power enough to make that happen? That I'm not super sure about. So if it does go to the ground, I think that there's a lot more of an evening of the playing field at that point. Then we're really going to have to see if Costa is really on his game like that. Because, I think that he has had some good wins. He's a dude who I enjoy watching fight. I think his fights are always pretty spirited, I would say. I mean, like he definitely is not one of these dudes that's going to lay and pray. He's a pretty active fighter overall. But, Juicy J has been around the block, man. He's seen a lot. He's just a dude with a glass chin, and that's the unfortunate truth of the matter for him.
Well, it's a good matchup then, because Costa's striking is not necessarily the greatest. He's a grappler at heart, but he's a damn good grappler. So we'll really get to see who's the submission guy here. So
yeah. No, go ahead. More?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, yeah, fair. No. I agree, and I think that this should be a test that Costa can pass. And then, because I think that this is another one where it's like you feed him a guy that makes sense to raise him up just a little bit more. Julian Erosa been around for a long time, very active dude, always fighting. So, get another win, build him up a little bit more, and then hopefully that grinder status you're talking about, maybe he gets a little bit more shine off of it.
I hope he does not get the grinder status, but I would like to say that he is definitely good enough to be towards the top of the division. When I look at Julian Erosa, I'm not saying comparatively to the skill set, but when you look at somebody like Andre Fili, I mean, it's like, these are just two dudes out the same barrel. Like, this is just another step in the mud kind of deal. Costa's got this.
Fair enough. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Gabe Green versus Matthias Camelo.
Who in the fuck?
Yeah, I was going to say.
This Matthias dude, he's not from Contender Series or anything, but he is 24 years old.
So just a dude coming in out of nowhere.
Just a dude coming out of ZFN 2.
Okay. Well, I mean, rare that you get a dude coming in to the promotion without having to be tested on any of the preliminary series at this point. A lot of people coming in off Contender Series and tough. He's not one of them. So obviously something in him.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Our guy Matthias here has been subbed twice as his only 2 losses, and our guy Gabe Green has 6 submission victories. So if you want to listen to anything, that might be key.
Hey, all right. Well, I mean, is there anything else to note about Gabe Green? Because
I have no idea who this. He lost to Brian Battle by knockout. That was the only other thing I just saw.
When was that? Was that
on a Rosenstrike card? So definitely a while ago. Rosenstrike and Almeida.
Oh, geez. Yeah, then he definitely he certainly did not make an impression back in 2023.
Shit. He hasn't fought since May 13th, 2023. Wow, that's 2 years from tomorrow.
Ain't nothing like the Apex, people.
I know, right?
But yeah, so pick your poison on that one. I mean, maybe Chase makes a good point there. If you're strictly going off on what's on paper, then him having a good amount of submission wins over a dude who are fighting a dude who his only losses are by submission. Maybe there's some logic there.
Hell yeah.
All right. People that we actually know. Jared Gordon versus Thiago Moises. Crazy that Jared Gordon is this far down on an Apex card. It kind of hurts my heart a little bit.
I would like to make the point that Thiago Moises is somebody who I've seen have close matchups against really good people, and then he has also not fallen, he's not went through with what I thought he was going to be able to possess. Jared Gordon, on the other hand, don't think I've seen him fight, but it's nothing obviously memorable. But if you do remember, people will swear that he beat Paddy Pimblett. So does that mean anything going into this matchup? Maybe. I mean, he might be a lot better than just the run-of-the-mill guy. So
it certainly means a lot to me because I'm one of those people. I definitely thought he won that fight. I like Jared Gordon. I think that he's got basically how I described Charles Radke is how I would describe him from last week. He's one of those kind of reminiscent of the old school. He's a dude who he's willing to go in there and make it dirty. Hopefully I'm not misplacing that assessment in him as I did with Radke, but he's gotten some good wins in the past. I think he's coming off of a good win, actually, if I'm not
Trey Ogden.
Yeah, right. A knockout on that one. Yeah.
No decision.
Probably. Oh no, he got a knockout in New York, did he not? Was that in New York?
Leg TKO against Mitch Ramirez.
There you go. Yeah,
that's Mitch Ramirez.
Yeah. So I mean, something to be said there. Level of competition aside, whatever. But I don't know. I like Jared Gordon. I'm okay with that, and I think that God, imagine how much different the landscape could be if he had actually gotten the call that he deserved in that fight.
True.
Yeah. Paddy gets the loss, and who knows what happened there. And then now Gordon is middle of the card on a fight night. And Paddy's, in the conversation for a title perhaps at some point. So, I don't sleep on Jared Gordon is, I guess, what I'm trying to say here.
I hear that.
And it's a pick 'em too. So, it's really going to depend on what version of Moises comes out. And All right. Luana Santos versus Thainara Lisboa.
You're never going to fucking guess this. Well, first off, when this fight was announced and I saw Thainara, I thought, is that the girl that just subbed out Molly McCann?
No, not the same one.
Not even close. Tainara is actually the other girl's last name. It's
I was
Thyonara,
gonna say, yeah,
Joe.
that's Alexia Thainara.
But if you go into this fight and you look at something really funny, is that this girl also fought her last fight was in October of 2023. But the fight before that was that same exact May 13th, 2023 Rosenstrike and Almeida card as the
Oh,
other dude fought on. So that's pretty funny.
must have
Um,
slept through that card.
I don't blame you. Luana Santos is somebody who actually had a lot of hype coming in. I mean, she was getting some good wins, submission, a KO, and then a decision, whatever you want to say. Like she was looking decent, but she should definitely win this one. I mean, with that being said, like I mean, the line being this close for somebody who hasn't fought in 2 years, I mean, it can't be. It can't be true.
Yeah. No, I mean, Santos, yeah, I agree. This is a fight that she should be taking pretty handily. Still can't get over the fact that the last time that I talked about Luana Santos, it was in relation to her inappropriately touching her dog. So
True,
that
true,
is
yes.
something I cannot let that slide. But that aside, as far as her fighting goes, yeah, this is probably going to be a win for her. Odd, honestly, like like 9-2 for, well, or 8-2 rather for Santos, but 8-2 and 7-2 are the records. It seems like they're closer on paper than what like my recollection of each of them would make me believe. So I got
Yeah.
to go with what my brain is telling me on this one, and it's that Santos takes this pretty easily.
Yep. I agree.
All right. Yadier Devalle, dude coming off of the Contender Series. He had a great fight on the Contender Series, actually, going up against Connor Matthews. This is going to be another one of those ones where it's like, can the dude from the Contender Series replicate it in the actual show?
Yeah, I mean, this one will be interesting because I don't know too much about either of them, but I'm hoping that somebody in the matchmaking is knowing that this is going to be a good fight for Mr. Valet. I don't even know. My guy's here.
Del
I would have
Valle, my friend, Hispanic pronunciation.
I would have thought it was French, but he is Cuban, so it is going to be interesting to see, another person from another low represented region of the world. If he can't come out here and make a statement, I mean, hell, you can do better than Robelis, I can tell you that.
Sure thing. And I also remember from the Contender Series that he has a pretty cool story as well. He one of, I think it was like some crazy amount of kids, like one of 8 or 10 or something like that. And I believe that he was the one that his dad or him worked as in like a pizza shop. I think he might have had like a pizza truck or something like that while he was getting his fighting career started and stuff. So anyway, that's all unrelated to the fight. But I say that just to say that, his story does endear me to him because he is living the American dream right now, coming over from Cuba to, live out his dreams right now. So
Hell yeah.
yeah, I'd like to see him get this win. But again, 8-0, and those O's have been dropping like flies this year. So
Yes, they have.
Connor Matthews, one of those dudes that's kind of middle of the road. This is the exact right test for a guy like Del Valle. If he's going to be who he thinks that he's going to be in this organization and who he would lend one to believe off the Contender Series, get this win.
Hell yeah.
Elise Reed, Denise Gomes. Why is this fight here?
This one sucks. I mean, Jesus Christ. You would hope that Denise Gomes wins because Elise Reed, I mean, actually, I might be wrong by saying that she maybe is not as bad as I remember her being. I mean, her losses to Loopy and Luke Boonme, I mean, those aren't terrible aging, but they were both submission losses. Is Denise Gomez even a submission artist? Because that's the only thing that I want to see. No, she's never even subbed anybody. What the hell is this fight? Like, okay,
No, yeah,
I don't care.
Denise Gomes is just a rough and tumble chick, but doesn't have a lot of technicality to it to make it effective. That's
Mhm.
what I get out of her. Like she's definitely going to go out there and scrap. She'll be up in your face. She'll clinch up. She'll do all the things, but she's not putting the puzzle together in a way that equals up to a win. And she's a huge favorite in this fight. She's a minus 600 favorite against a plus 400 in Elise Reed. So, I guess the numbers would lead you to believe that she's going to take this one pretty handily. Elise Reed, definitely not as gritty of a fighter, but I do think that this line is probably inflated to an extent, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. But
So I don't
I mean,
know.
she did lose to Angela Hill, as I just noticed, so she can't be that fucking good.
Oh, all right. I'll leave that one there. I mean, Angela Hill has been up and down. She's Anthony Smith territory, so she can win over people who she should lose against, and vice versa. This one, I would think that Gomes really does need to win this in order to actually maintain any kind of stake in anything. Because if she loses this fight, then there's really nothing left for her, I would say.
I agree. Yep.
All right, Hyun Sung Park versus Carlos Hernandez. I have really no opinions about this fight. Park, I believe, is
Road to the
a
UFC
road
guy.
to UFC guy. Yes,
Winner.
what's that? Winner?
Yeah, winner.
Yeah. So, going up against Carlos Hernandez, who is 10-4, so he's certainly been around for a while. Will this be another road to the UFC guy who just gets kind of flattened by actual competition? Hard to say. Maybe he'll be one of the standout ones.
Yeah, this is flyweight, so he's probably going to be equipped with the skill set that most modern flyweights have. So that just means he's able to do everything. Carlos Hernandez is not somebody that sticks out in my brain as somebody that can offer like the craziest stylistic matchup to like this is like in my opinion, this is a matchup that you throw at somebody. It's like, okay, now we got to see what they got. Like we got to see what he's actually made of. Carlos Hernandez is not the guy that I would say is like, oh, this is the test. So
Right, fair. And I mean, Park, yet another undefeated fighter over here. So
we see him every fucking card, man. It's like everybody's undefeated these days, you
they've
know?
been pumping a lot of new blood into the organization, and that's why we've had so many undefeated fighters losing their O's. It's just more of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll take the favorite on this one, just off of the strength of the win on the road to UFC. So obviously he's done enough to get to that point. This is the real test. Prove it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, and to finish this thing off, a couple of old school ladies over here: Tisha Pennington versus Luana Pinheiro. Pinheiro is someone that I remember being pretty annoyed by in some of her fights, and Tisha Pennington, of course, Tisha Torres, her maiden name, the wife of Raquel, former champion there. She's been around for quite some time and has never really achieved like an amazing level of success. So this is a pretty even fight in my mind, but on paper, again, Pennington, a huge favorite over Pinheiro. Another time where we're seeing that anyway. I think that the numbers might be a little inflated on this one.
Yeah, I don't care too much about this one. I mean, Tisha Pennington, I could care less, guys. I don't know. Like, so we'll see how this one ends up, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be the fireworks that a main, the fight that starts the card off. Last week we had Katona and Bexat. That was definitely a way to start off an event. This is just the regular run of the mill Apex first fight of the night.
Yeah, and I mean, Tisha is coming off of a win over the legendary boring fighter in Carla Esparza in her retirement fight. She did win that fight. So I guess you can take that into consideration. That's probably a good part of why this line is as inflated as it is. Pinheiro, like I said, somebody who just, I don't know, never been too impressed with. So hopefully this will be at least somewhat entertaining to make this worth coming to the card early.
Yep, I agree.
And of course, we will be back next week to talk about each and every one of these fights right here on Last Week's Fights. I want to say thank you to everybody who's been hanging with us for this stream. We had a really nice active chat tonight. If you are not subscribed, make sure that you are subscribed to youtube.com/@YamaShow, where you can see me doing a watch along of this card with my good buddy, the Vitz King and Chase. I know where you can tell them to subscribe to you.
They will be finding me on youtube.com/@CPSmalls, and that's where I will be doing my individual watch-alongs and uploading some shorts that can vary in predictions and or reactions, anything like that. Twitter, sometimes I'm hanging out, x.com/creativepartin, PARTIN, and yeah, we're just having a great time.
That's right. Make sure you follow my boy. I am on Twitter and Instagram @YamaShow as well. Give me a follow. Instagram especially. Always be posting some fun stuff in the stories on that. So thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We appreciate all of you. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be back to talk about these fights next Monday. And if we don't see you until then, fight on.
It's